That pace car going to turn itself down towards pit road once again, meaning the field is now in the command of Chad Simpson for what will be the final restart in this race. He picks up the pace. We are back to green flag racing. A good start there by Simpson. A good start by Manif also. A little bit sloppier there by Martin Miller. He's under pressure from Cam Stark down in towards turn number 1. That could be a 2-horse race already, Rachel, as the drivers head themselves onto the back straightaway. Cam Stark has got a chance, but he needs to move past Martin Miller immediately on the back straightaway, and that is exactly what he's doing.
Should be, as they dance side to side here on the back straightaway. Marnie frowning outside there of Chad Simpson. He knows he has to get to the front and defend that if he has any hope at all of a caution coming out in this race. Simpson on the inside though, going to the low side, has a good run there, but it's going to have Cam Stark behind Nudge Marnie. This is it, Will. This is about to become a 4-horse race.
3 laps to go as they come down in towards turn number 1. Simpson leads again from Nigel Marnie. Miller is back in the picture as well. There you can see your top 6 drivers. They are barely separated by a blanket as they work themselves out of corner number 2. Down the back straightaway, Miller tags the wall there. That's going to force this field down to a 2-horse race once again. Cam Stark avoids, and now it's going to mean that Nigel Marnie is going to look to the outside as they work themselves down in towards turn number 3. Simpson has got enough to stay there in play, but Simpson leads with 5 miles of racing remaining, and now Marnie is going to have to find a way past. He's done it on the high side before, Rachel. He looks to the high side once again. 2 laps to go.
It won't be in turn 1. He's going to have to save this one up, but here comes Cam Stark in P3. Got a very, very fast Apex Racing UK car there, Will, but has he got anything there for the HMB car of Narneef? Narneef's so good here in the final laps, but Simpson under threat. Turn 1 is not a good spot, but we have to see this happen in turn 3. It will have to start there.
There are 6 corners remaining. They're almost going to go 3 wide down in towards turn number 3. Stark getting boxed out. Marneef having to go early. Down in towards turn number 3. And going to be Nigel Marneef back to the point. 1 more lap to go of this event down towards the yard of bricks. Nigel Marneef is 1 lap away from making history. Chad Simpson is having to defend for all he's worth. 2 miles of racing to go down in the final lap then. Nigel Marneef leads by 2 tenths of a second from Chad Simpson. Simpson now has got himself 2 corners to catch and pass Nigel Marneef, but Cam Stark is in the mix as well. If they battle for position, that means it's going to be Marneef who is going to do it all by himself. Stark around the outside. He moves himself up into 2nd place, but I don't think he'll have enough to catch up to the rear of Nigel Marneef in the final corner. Here they come towards the start-finish line. It will be Nigel Marneef trying to hold on. It's going to be a drag race to the start-finish line. Cam Stark trying to steal it away at the line. It will be Nigel Marneef winning. We'll get confirmation at the line, but it's going to be a photo finish there. We need to get ourselves another look. It's a photo finish. Our result will come up on your screen any second now, and it is Cam Stark by 8 1/1000ths of a second. Well, yesterday it was 41 1/1000ths of a second, Rachel. Cam Stark today stole from Nigel Marneef, or he stole from Joshua Chin yesterday. Marneef almost did the impossible. He loses out by 8 1/1000ths of a second. Cam Stark is a winner in the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. Pavelski is driving away. One of the biggest leads we've seen. That's behind. They're all strapping for positions, but no one can touch Matt Pavelski. As down to the inside, straight up into P number 2. We've got ourselves 5 to go. 2 seconds. Aaron, are you ready?
Does Trano have it? Does he have it? Pavelski last lap of 40.5. Trano needs, well, he's going to need to put in the best laps of his career. Looking at his best, he on lap 190 ran a 40.2. He is going to need to run qualifying style laps. This lap time really isn't going to give us a gauge of what type of speeds can be run, but best thing for Trano is if somebody can get close and give a little bit of assistance. But with that passing, he lost another 4/10 the margin. 2.1, 5 to go.
5 to go, 12.5 miles to go, Paul.
And it looks like Tim Holgate almost nailed the wall again. he's got. But Pavelski is just taken off. He is left. And Trano, I've got to say, that is the move of the race. Trano took care of 3 cars in 2 corners there. And it's just an unbelievable. This is just the way Trano is. When the chips are down, he's just going to hammer it. If he makes it, great. If he doesn't, great. Whatever. At least he tried. That's Trano's way. He has given it all he's got right now to try and chase down Pavelski. And it's got to be frustrating to see that Pavelski is not getting any bigger in front of him.
Pavelski has got a 2.2 second advantage right now over Brandon Trano. And this actually, if it finishes like this, will be the biggest Indy 500 finish we have seen here in the 7 years of broadcasting this event, Aaron. Pavelski is on the verge of making history in that Rockstar machine.
And this is where you try to tune everything out. It's not over till you cross the line and the twin checkers are flying. Ask J.R. Hildebrand, ask Robbie Gordon. Those are 2 drivers that led on lap 199 and did not win the race. Very easy to let emotions, let thoughts get into your head. Be perfect, hit the marks. If his spotters are telling him you're pulling away, don't worry about it. Just run your line. You're on lap 198, settle down, just finish this. This is yours, but when you're leading late, the adrenaline's pumping, your heart's pumping, it's easy to drop a wheel.
Marneef
behind
Trano.
Nearly caught the wall in turn 1, and yep, that's what I'm calling Marneef is all over Trano. Trano just brushed the wall out of 1, and Marneef just stomped on him.
And look at this then, Trano taking the defensive line. Marneef is there right behind him, in towards turn 1. A caution now, of course, will end it. And we've never seen this race finish under caution. But hey, Aaron, 1.5 laps to go. Here we go. Pavelski is on the verge of making history.
And what a win that would be. He's been a breakthrough driver this past year, but you speak about the yellows, Marneef and Trano for P2 are doing everything they can to end that streak. What a battle for P2. Pavelski off of 4, white flag will be in the air.
1 more lap to go then, and again, Trano versus the driver of Nigel Marneef. They're going to play defensive, but Marneef's going to look to the outside. The white flag is out. 1 more lap to go here at Indy. Through turn 1 they come, and Marneef can't do anything yet. They head themselves now on the exit of turn 2. Marneef actually loses a little bit of time as they head themselves now down towards turn 3 and 4. I don't think Marneef is going to be close enough yet. Ray Alfano is out of this motor race. He spun it around there on the final lap of this race, but it's okay for Matt Pavelski. He will run it to the line. Out of turn 4 he comes, and once again, a new winner here in the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Matt Pavelski joins one of the most illustrious groups in all of sim racing. Matt Pavelski will win here at IMS. Trano will come in second. Nigel Marneef in third. Tim Holgate in fourth. Alex Simpson rounds out your top 5. And for Ray Alfano, well, it's been on the final lap of the motor race. That is the definition of heartbreak. But today, it is Matt Pavelski's day. The number 10 machine there. What a drive. What a race. What a way to make yourself a part of one of the immortal groups of iRacing. Pavelski wins. Pavelski wins. Pavelski wins here. Welcome to the corner of 16th Street and Georgetown. Welcome to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. As for the 8th time, we are going to go racing here in the greatest spectacle in all of sim racing. This is the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Winston here along with Cisco Scaramuza and Rennie Chernoff. We are about 4 minutes away from drivers heading themselves to the starting grid. There you can see the track conditions up on your screen. And well, for those who didn't watch the pre-race show, Cisco, we've learned one thing. Overtaking today can be tough. Track position, track management is so important.
It absolutely is, Will. And hello everyone out there today over on Facebook Live, YouTube, and of course iRacing Live. And Will, we talked about it. What we're seeing with the aero kits this year is something very interesting. We're kind of having a renaissance all the way back to how this race used to be run back in the IR05, and it's to be a lot of fun. But as you said, passing completely different for these guys, and it's going to be very interesting to see how these guys deal with that different aero kind of configuration as it was last year.
And qualifying over the course of the last week has been intense, Randy. We thought we might have seen a couple of drivers from the NASCAR Peak Entry Series or the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. There are none because the quality of driving and qualifying has been so high this year.
There are some guys from both ends of the spectrum. A couple drivers that we were initially talking about didn't turn up, but John Gorlinski, not in peak this year, but he's in this race. You also have a couple WCS drivers, Jamie Fluke, one of the ones notably, but it is mostly those Indy regulars. And really, though, we do always have to keep an eye on how those ringers do in this race.
Last year, Ray Alfaro, P number 4 till the last lap of this motor race. And then it all went wrong for him on that final lap. But today, 32 drivers are going to go, 33 drivers are going to go out and do battle here, Cisco. One of them will be providing themselves the opportunity of working themselves into iRacing immortality. And if they're one of two drivers, Tim Doyle or Tim Holgate, they have the chance of becoming the first two-time winner of this prestigious event.
And both of those drivers, Will, are capable of doing this. Tim Holgate had a fantastic run 2 weeks ago. Tim Doyle also had a very good run as well. Both those guys, threats here always in the IndyCar, and especially at the 500.
It wouldn't be Indianapolis without the song that epitomizes this event. We are once again back home again in Indiana, and that means it's time to talk to our good friend, Mr. Jim Neighbors.
Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still burning bright through the sycamores for me. The new moon hay sends all its fragrance through the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, how I long for my Indiana home.
Our good friend, Mr. Jim Neighbors there. We're back home again in Indiana here as we are now ready for the 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. The talking stops here. Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines because here we go for the 8th annual Indianapolis 500 here on iRacing, and it is time to welcome in the grid, Cisco. And at the very front of your field here today, Christopher Demerit with a qualifying time of 39.010, 1/100th of a second exactly ahead of Martin Miller.
And such a close time there. And then right behind those guys on row number 2, Jeff Drake, 39.033, and Austin Espity right behind him, only 3/1000ths off that time.
Heading ourselves then to row number 3 in your field. It is going to be Tim Holgate He has won here back in 2014. Alongside him is Tanner J. Watkins. Row number 4, Randy, who have we got?
Row number 4 starting today, Joshua Chin in that Team Chimera machine. A very experienced IndyCar driver is Joshua, but he doesn't race as much quite as often. And of course, Bradley Walters, someone who came so close and dominated that Elite Series race 2 weeks ago. But heartbreak for strategy got him after that 150 lap run.
Row number 5, Andrew Kinsella on the inside there. And then someone who you need to pay attention to, Tim Doyle in that number 7 machine. Behind him, you've got yourselves Josh Scapuzza there, and also John Gorlinski. Gorlinski, of course, Cisco, a driver most well known from his time in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be able to spot him in the very yellow number 2. And then right behind him, Brandon Trost. We talked to him during the pre-race show. Vic Caudell, Henry Bennett will round out your top 15.
On the outside of row number 8, Rick Music, P1 Racing Team. Never discount P1 Racing, as the rest of the results then are cycling through on your screen very quickly as we now turn our attention over to the grid. The drivers are working themselves then side by side as they are ready to go racing for 500 miles. There you will see it now, Michael Chin at the very rear of your field. But out front, you'll see that Christopher Demerit will bring the field to the green flag here for the 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. And ladies and gentlemen, let's live the start with a little bit of Racebot TV fan immersion. It looks as though they will survive lap number 1 without any issues at all. Randy, we are underway in the 8th annual iRacing Indy 500.
And people are already dicing it up really aggressively. Tim Holgate qualified 5th, and he's already fighting for 2nd position with Jeff Drake through corners number 1 and 2. Now down into corner number 2. Holgate's going to have to work the bump. Drake needs to work the top side. Drake holds onto it. Holgate's got the inside line. Should get that move into 3. But Holgate made a fantastic move on lap number 1 to pass 2 cars in a single corner at the end of the racetrack, corners number 3 and 4.
And that's the thing here. Get yourself those positions early, because we know that overtaking can potentially be difficult here this afternoon. So there we are then. Lap number 2 of this event is scored complete. Live timing and scoring is available here on Racebot TV. As you'll see, Tim Holgate there, Cisco, to the race lead at the start of lap number 3.
We talk about drivers who are a threat in this series, and when you look in that rear view mirror, there's one color car out there everyone fears when it comes up behind them. It's the gray, silver, and red little lines of that number 10 out there right now. Tim Holgate to the lead, and as always, once he takes the lead, there's always that threat that you're never getting that lead back.
As we just saw that, a little bit of battling going on down, of course, in your mid-pack as well. You can also get social with us. Use the hashtag RaceBotTV. Use the hashtag also iRacing Indy 500, and follow us on Facebook at RaceBotTV as well. Brandon Troyster right behind now, the driver of Tanner Watkins, as they work themselves on the exit of turn number 2. Good start then to this motor race. No issues really to talk about here in this one, Randy, and that is what we like to hear.
Yeah, everything's pretty clean running so far. A little bit of side-by-side moments, but nothing really too sketchy. Let's say one big story, though, that Jeff Drake, going to corner number 1 at the start of lap number 4, tried to work a move on Holgate, didn't end up working out. He lost a lot of momentum, and there's now a bit of a gap. Top 2 are somewhat broken away. Look for them to work together and try to stretch that gap over the cars running 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Jeff Drake, Austin Esmeti, and Martin Miller right now.
Yeah, Christopher Merritt there in 2nd place, Jeff Drake in 3rd. You've got yourself that driver of Christopher Merritt in that 2nd place in that broken aero number 5 machine versus Tim Holgate for your race lead. But we'll turn that camera around and you'll see the fact that you've got yourself already a nice little gap going on. We're going to step aside for one moment here, ladies and gentlemen, on Racebot TV. We'll be back with more after this message.
Watch Ernie, go, go, go. Car right, car right, car right, car right. Watch, 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 watch. Damn it! Get ready. Dude, more heads up in that. Jeez.
Right on the back wing. Can he make it happen?
Yes! Yes! Push like hell. We gotta stay in front of these guys.
Drivers on the push to pass. Contact in the pit lane.
All right, 60. Let that eagle fly. What do I do? What happened? Push here. Push hard. Let's go get this guy. Car outside. Through behind you. No. Clear outside. Good job. Just spun behind you. I don't know if you got him or not.
He got out of it so hard. Look at these guys are all over the back.
Full throttle.
IndyCar. He hit an outlap. What's next?
Come and get the checkers, big boy. Oh, baby, that was good. He hit me. Inside, inside, outside, inside, outside.
2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. See what's next.
We do apologise for that, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back here to Racebot TV and on iRacing Live. We are now on lap number 9 of 200 in the 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500 as well. Again, clean start to this motor race there, Cisco. Tim Holgate, Christopher Demerit, though, are the 2 drivers battling out for your race lead.
Yeah, and Holgate's been able to hold that top position while we've been away. He's done a very good job of defending that position from Demerit. Demerit probably, I would assume, Randy, in fuel save mode right now. He knows he can't get in front of the 10, so he's going to use it to his advantage.
Everyone's going to be thinking about, just being patient right now, potentially saving gas. Tim Holgate, someone who is famous in this series for saving fuel behind drivers. Demerit's definitely doing the same thing. He should have enough of a slipstream to maybe make a move if he wants. I just don't think he wants to right now. I think everyone right now just thinking about saving gas. The field has really calmed down after the first opening 3 or 4 laps.
But you say that, your entire field right now is separating your top 30 drivers by 8 seconds on track here. So it is a close race. And you see, for the most part, it is a bit of a pack race that is going on. And that is going to be important here because every position, therefore, counts all of a sudden as we go on board with Austin Esmeti, currently in your 3rd place there in that number 9 Team Afterburn machine versus Jeff Drake in the number 13 car as they head themselves through to turn number 1 once again.
Demerit got himself back to the race lead. Sorry to interrupt here, Cisco. And actually, Will, big talking point. We talked about Holgate and Doyle and keep an eye on them to see if they could become our first repeat Indy 500 winners. Tim Doyle did not take the green flag here today. He is currently not running.
Yep, so that means the only chance that we've got for a repeat is the driver currently running himself in second place. That is Tim Holgate in the number 10 machine right now. So, Ohio versus New Jersey. Demerit versus Holgate right now as they come past the track towards turn number 1. And here comes Holgate back to the race lead as they come down through turn number 1 for the 13th time here today. Well, more passing already than what we thought we were going to see here, Cisco. Track conditions aren't completely favourable, but it's good enough that we're getting us ourselves some battles.
Yeah, Tim and Chris having a great battle right now. Do want to make one story. We had a driver in the wall, turn 3. It was Vic Caudell in the number 12. He got up into the wall, turn 4. He's actually coming down pit road right now, but that was the driver. He fell out early, had a very, very good start. Started 14th, but got the wall out of 4. He's down pit road now as the leaders go by, and it's actually going to be a battle for a 10, but that's what happened to the 12.
Yeah, and Caudell has horrible luck so often in Indianapolis, and he's having it once again here as out front the two drivers are trying to work together, of Christopher Demerit and the driver of Tim Holgate right now. Behind there is the driver of John Gorlinski, currently in P number 12. We go on board of him versus that driver of Joshua Chin, and well, in towards turn 3 and 4 they come. Doesn't seem to be as if there's too much of this overtaking going on down in your pack. Everyone's content right now, Randy. Just ride the laps, and of course, 14 laps in, we're hitting halfway for a fuel run already.
Yeah, you're going to see these drivers. Normally 29 laps is what you can do about in clean air. However, the way these guys are all running right now, look for them to start pushing to lap 32, lap 33 potentially when they can actually come down pit road. And I know from experience last night in the Top Split 500, it is difficult to get runs and make passes on people in the mid packs. Right now, like let's say you're Joshua Chin, who's currently making a run on Josh Skrupa. It's difficult to make pace and get there. It's easy right now if you're Chris Demerit or Tim Holgate to pass the car in front of you, because that car in front of you is pushing clean air and you're just essentially getting a draft from behind them. If you're in the mid pack, everyone has a draft, so you don't get that slipstream effect the way you do out front.
As we have a look then at the cars heading in towards turn number 1, that is Joshua Chin et al. Let's go on board with Joshua Chin then, currently in P number 11 in the number 1 machine versus Josh Cooper. And well, he doesn't actually get a good run out of turn number 2, and that is part of the issue then, getting the run out of turn number 2. We always talk about turn number 1 here, Cisco, being the key corner you need to get right, but actually turn number 2 gives you the opportunity to make the run down the back straightaway, and drivers seem to be struggling there right now as we now go on board with Tanner Watkins versus Martin Miller.
Yeah, and losing that run going down the back straightaway, you lose a ton of time doing that, because that sets up your pass going down the back straightaway, that sets up your turn 3 and also your turn 4. That whole north end of the speedway, you basically lose all that if you mess up the exit at turn 2. So we see Miller come out, very good exit there, but you have to be careful. All of these corners, they're so important to this racetrack, and especially these cars, just because how much momentum these cars have. You can't be scrubbing off speed even for one corner, because you're just going to fall into the clutches of the guy behind you.
A little bit further back, you've got yourself Chad Simpson versus Graham Bunyan there, Australian New Zealand driver versus the Texas driver of Chad Simpson. It's good to see the international representation here going on again here, Andy, as we are on lap number 18 right now. Graham Bunyan, Australian New Zealand driver. Good to have Australasian representation in this field here today.
Yeah, it's great to see. There's right. I mean, just looking right now at the grid, you have, of course, a bunch of drivers in the U.S., drivers in Australia, drivers in the U.K. They got a driver in Indy, in Italy, excuse me, that just speak there. Iberica, Scandinavian drivers in the field. Club Dayach with TM Hauser. There is, of course, the international appreciation here. The other thing I love, Will, is to see the different teams you have running here today. You, of course, have your usual IndyCar teams. You have Broken Arrow, you have Banshee and Team Afterburn, and love, all of those guys, but I love seeing the other teams come out. You got Vortex here today coming out in stride. You have Apex out here in stride, even a Chimera car out there running strong as well. That's what I love about this race. It brings the sim racing community together like very few of these World Tour events do.
Yeah, and Vortex Sim Racing, whilst they were representatives in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series and the Blancpain GT Series, they were initially an IndyCar team, and they were one of the teams in late 2011, early 2012 that formed as part of trying to get away from this mega team establishment and give opportunities to more drivers. And now they've been able to build itself up, get themselves more representation, and that is what they've been able to do. Now represented in 2 of the World Championship Series. Broken Arrow, of course. They were a team that's been around now for almost 5 years here, Cisco. And you talk about history, there's a lot of history. To quote Taylor Swift, there is still some bad blood around here occasionally.
Of course you're going to have rivals, and I mean, we look down the list of the drivers, we see these guys, if they're in, in the Indy Elite Series, some of these guys run CIS. We've seen these guys all over the place. So these drivers know each other, and we talked about the competitiveness of this IndyCar. Oh, actually, never mind. We'll talk about that later. Caution out on the racetrack. It's
Michelle
19.
Constantini.
Yeah, the 19.
First caution of the day then, and it comes at a good time for drivers, except for the 2 drivers involved. TM Hauser, Michelle Constantini then are involved in this one. We're going to ride this one on board with TM Hauser and see what happened from his perspective in the number 26 Club Diaz machine. He hits a wall coming out of turn number 4, spins that car around, and Constantini involved in the incident as well. By the looks of it, there you can see the driver Constantini. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, that is 2 Vortex Sim Racing drivers out of this event in the early going, and that is a huge disappointment to Vortex there, Randy.
It is, and I actually think Michel Constantini, he tried to avoid TM Hauser. I think he lost track of where the pit wall was because he didn't actually hit Hauser. He actually just drove into the pit wall, and I think he just got to the point where he didn't want to risk getting the slowdown penalty. I think he would have been better off just blitzing it down the pit lane at 200 miles an hour, to be honest, because there's a difference between pitting under green or hitting that wall at 200 mile an hour plus. But like you said, for those Vortex drivers, that's heartbreaking, especially if you're TM Hauser coming off the win last week.
Yeah, so then pit road will be open this time by, and all of the drivers, we do expect them to come on towards pit road. A fuel tank here is anywhere between about 29 and 31 laps, depending on how good you are on that noisy pedal. All the drivers will most likely now be in fuel mode 8. That is basically going to make this car as lean as possible and will help them gain a couple of fractions of a gallon under caution, but those couple of fractions of a gallon could well prove to be very, very useful later on as the drivers now will come on towards pit road. I don't expect to see anyone staying out, and indeed they are all then, Cisco, come on towards pit road.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone doing 60. See, everyone slowed down once they got to the pit cones there. 60 miles an hour down pit road, but these guys probably not on the limiter, trying to push that extra mile an hour or so, trying to get past that the speed cameras there, make sure they don't get busted. But either way, cars starting to hit their pit boxes here. Of course, you got to watch out for that transition between the asphalt and the concrete. Into the pit box goes the 5, and we look down pit road. Everyone at auto jacks up. We're waiting to see when do the cars start to leave. We start to see cars leaving pit road, and it's going to be Demerit is going to lead them off pit road. Holgate keeps second.
Yep, so there you'll see the drivers as they head themselves out of pit road. There's your top 15 places.
We had a spin on pit road. Lichtenberg's facing the wrong way.
Well, Lichtenberg then, it's going to be a long drive off pit road for him. Let's get ourselves a replay. Brandon Lichtenberg.
Oh, it didn't even start with him. I think he caught the back end of Krosno.
And let's get ourselves a replay. Well, yeah, it's been a long spin actually for him. We're going to have to recycle this one a little bit further as he hits Krosno on towards pit road. So, Broken Arrow and Aero X Racing, of course, no love lost between these two teams here today. Lichtenberg and Randy Krosno then having themselves some incidents on pit road. Demerit, though, does come out with the race leaders. We'll step aside for one moment here, ladies and gentlemen, on Racebot TV. Back with more in just 1 second.
Introducing a whole new form of racing to the best online racing simulation in the world. This is Dirt Racing on iRacing.com. Race online at some of America's most legendary dirt tracks, including Eldora and Williams Grove. iRacing is the premier online racing game featuring NASCAR, IndyCar, sports cars, and now World of Outlaws, the leading sanctioning body for dirt racing. iRacing is easy to use and features a centralized ranking system to make sure you have the best experience at any skill level. With a massive inventory of high-precision laser scan tracks and cars with an unmatched dedication to quality and detail, iRacing gives you the most authentic online racing experience available. Thanks to iRacing's dynamic track system, developed specifically for dirt racing, tracks change over the course of a race, just like your favorite dirt track on a Friday or Saturday night. From a slick racing groove all the way up to the cushion, iRacing's dirt tracks deliver non-stop racing action. Partnered with the World of Outlaws, iRacing is your source for the most authentic dirt racing experience available, featuring 4 brand new tracks and 11 new cars, including street stocks, Legends cars, late models, NASCAR trucks, winged and non-winged sprint cars, with much more on the way. Join the Dirt Revolution on iRacing.com and start slinging mud today.
A third of a lap and the drivers will be back to green flag racing here at the 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500 on RaceSpot TV, streaming live on iRacing Live. And well, after the first 20 or so plus laps of racing, it's Christopher Demerit who has himself the race lead. It'll be lap number 24 complete as the drivers come back to the green flag here. Cisco, it's all yours.
And coming out of turn 4 right now, the north end of the speedway here in Speedway, Indiana. We're waiting to see when that iRacing.com Ford Mustang pace car going to make its left-hand turn onto pit road. We're going to have to see when's it going to happen. There it is. He makes the left-hand turn, and now we wait for Demerit, waiting on the throttle. When's he going to... There it is. Green flag back in the air.
Here they come down towards turn number 1. Demerit gets a good run then over Tim Holgate in towards that first corner. Now it's a case of Tim Holgate is going to have to play defense versus Jeff Drake through turn number 2 here, Randy.
Good run up and down the field, but let's see. Is Holgate going to get a run on Demerit? He comes off a 2. Yes, he is. Down the back straightaway. Big head of steam for the 10 cars. They work themselves into 3. To the inside goes Holgate, and Jeff Drake's going to try to follow him and pick up that second spot. But how will the dirty air play suit? Tim Holgate is now going to push up. Doesn't quite give Demerit enough dirty air. Drake's going to have to shuffle back into 3rd. Holgate has the lead for now, but Demerit's going to get a run off of 4.
And they go side by side again, past the eye of bricks. Who's it going to be at the line? It will be the driver of Christopher Demerit. And these lead laps, you know, they're not worth points or anything here today, here Cisco, but they are still important in terms of driver psyches, as now it's going to be Jeff Drake versus Brandon Trost going side by side for P number 3.
Yeah, and it looks like the 14's going to lose his run off of turn 2, so not able to make the move. Meanwhile, Holgate back up for the lead as they head into turn 3 right now. North end of the speedway once again, and Holgate is going to make the pass done. 10 back to the lead.
As it will now be a case of, can Holgate keep that momentum out of corner number 4? Demerit led at the line last time by. He's looking to do the same thing as they come towards the yard of bricks once again. And Demerit again will go back to the race lead by the time the lap is complete, Randy.
No, he won't, because the 14 of Brandon Trost, he's going to come from 3rd up to 1st. The inside into corner number 1 still has the inside through 2. That 14 machine is fast and still working the inside down your back straightaway. Trost hasn't gotten it clear. Holgate's going to think about making it 3 wide, but Trost on that lap, he was 4th going into turn 3, and he goes into the race lead in 1. Can he hold the race lead as he comes off of 4?
There's traffic ahead of him. This is going to be dangerous now for all of these drivers. They're going to have to pay a lot of attention. Slow traffic then out of corner number 4. That is the driver of the 30th position, Vic Cordell, by the looks of it. As side by side, Demerit then will not lead the lap, but it will lead in towards turn number 1. Once again here, Cisco, lots of overtaking all of a sudden in your top battles.
And that driver of Caudell is going to cause a huge wrench in the works in the middle of the pack. They went 3 wide for a moment. The 24 nearly hit the grass. Bradley Walters about hit the grass on the inside of the track there, very close. But that's what the lap traffic can do. Meanwhile, back up front, Brandon Trost through 3 and 4 once again is going to have the lead. But this is where Demerit's going to get that run.
Yeah, so let's have a look back at Christopher Demerit once again then as they come past the yard of bricks. Will Demerit get the race lead again? Yes, he will. In towards turn number 1 they come once again. Demerit seems to have so much top-end speed here, but he does lose out in the corners here, Cisco, and that could well be important.
Yeah, and Demerit seems to get a very good run kind of on that front straightaway every time he gets in front of Trost. But Trost now maybe going into fuel save mode. Well, it's not going to matter because Tim Holgate says, thank you very much. I'll take that inside. He's going to try and make that pass for P2. Demerit, meanwhile, watching all this in the mirror.
Tim Holgate out of corner number 4. Cannot get the pass complete of Christopher Demerit as they head themselves back down to the south side of the racetrack. Here comes Brandon Trost down to the inside of Christopher Demerit. Pass complete there, Randy.
Good pass there by the 14, and what's going to be interesting to me as this race goes on, Will, the fact that Trost is so quick. Brandon Trost is somewhat famous in the IndyCar community for running the car with a bunch of aero, as right now Tim Holgate looks up the inside of that 5 machine of Chris Demerit on the back straightaway to the north end of the racetrack. In turn number 3, they're going to stay side by side, but Demerit's not going to make it easy. Holgate having the dirty air from Brandon Trost. You can make the outside work if the inside driver has dirty air, but Trost runs the middle, so Demerit doesn't get clean air, and he only almost pushes up in the wall. Just some aggressive, I think, defensive driving there from Trost out front, Will.
Tim Holgate cannot close up in towards turn number 1. Lap number 31 will be scored complete this time by out of 200. But your top 3, Brandon Trost, Tim Holgate, Christopher Demerit, Jeff Drake is in 4th place, and Tanner Watkins runs out your top 5. No one really has pulled away though. Look at that one, Cisco. You look back, you go back essentially to P number 24, 25. Everyone can still see your race leader.
Yeah, absolutely, and kind of we have a little bit of a breakaway, but that kind of was caused by Caudell kind of mixing up that pack a little bit, but for the most part, everyone's still fairly together. We saw Watkins jump to the inside. He wasn't able to get the pass done on Jeff Drake. They're coming through 3 and 4, but for the most part, you kind of have that gap. It kind of starts around Chad Simpson. He's kind of that first driver in that kind of no man's land. He's not close to Rick Music, but at the same time, he's pulled away from Henry Bennett, so he's kind of keeping that pack together.
As Austin Espartee looks himself down to the inside right now of the number 1 car even, of Joshua Chin, cannot complete that pass through the north end of the racetrack, so he therefore remained in the 11th position, coming down towards 1 once again, and he cannot make the move. And that dirty air, Randy, we will talk about that quite heavily throughout the course of this motor race.
Yeah, especially right now, I think that 3rd place runner of Chris Demerit, you talked about it, Will, the fact that he had so much top end. I wouldn't be surprised if Demerit, your pole sitter, had that car a little bit more trimmed out than the rest of the field. He's now gone shuffled back to 3rd, and if that's the case, he's going to start feeling that dirty air. Hopefully, for his sake, he just has something with the gearing and is able to hit something that other people aren't able to do in top end, because if he's trimmed out now, he could be in for some bad news the rest of this first stint. And look at the run he gets on Holgate down your front straight away.
And it's very interesting to note as well, of course, that dirty air and of course the in-car adjustments there, Randy, that these drivers have to make to compensate. It's time for your Eddie Cheever moment of the race.
To a certain extent, yes. These cars, the Indy cars, have weight jackers, and the way this sounds is it doesn't actually adjust the weight in the car, so to speak. On the right rear, they basically have a shock that they can move up and down that essentially alters the ride heights and does alter the weight distribution. You also have your front and rear anti-roll bars, and of course you have your pit options, Will, for adjustments. You can make wing adjustments, both front and rear, so you can add front downforce, you can add rear downforce, or you can just add overall downforce and keep the balance but give the car overall more grip if you're in dirty air. You can also adjust tire pressures, and that can really help as well.
It can do, as Andrew Kinsella is just behind this battle we've got going on between Jeff Drake right now and Tanner Watkins. That is for the 4th position on track. Josh Grouper versus Martin Miller. That one also continues here, Cisco, for P number 8.
Yeah, it's a great battle going on in P8 between those guys right now, but it's starting to space out a little bit. Miller's starting to pull away, Will, and that's kind of the ebb and flow we're going to see out of this race. One guy will pull away from the other, and they'll accordion behind him, and kind of we see the battle right now. There's a little bit of a battle between Josh Chin. It's a 3-car battle. Chin, Espity, and Ellis. He's in the number 3 car, that Apex driver, but kind of Chin's leading this group, and he's starting to pull away. It's just how the draft works. Chin was together with those guys and all of a sudden got a huge run through 1 and 2 and was able to pull away.
So, Ronnie, we talk about putting away though, Cisco. We're talking about tenths of a second here, not seconds, not even half seconds. We're talking about a tenth, maybe 2 tenths of a second here.
Oh, yeah.
Because this field is so close right now.
Oh, it is very close, and well, here comes Tim Holgate, and what you'll see these guys start to do, the faster cars will start to kind of fall in behind. We talked about before that fuel safe strategy. That's what the 10 did. He got all the way up to the rear gearbox of the 14 at Trost, just pulled behind him and let out the gas. So the 10 in fuel conservation mode, and definitely the MO of that driver, the number 10 right there, and I have to imagine Demerit doing the same thing behind Holgate.
It is worth noting here, actually, Randy, that having a look at the last pit stop times, Brandon Trost, 7.7 second pit stop, 8.4 second pit stop for Holgate, 8.5 seconds for Demerit. So even though Brandon Trost might have the lead of this motor race right now, he might well have taken a little bit less fuel to try and leapfrog some other drivers around him.
Yeah, it's one of two things may have happened. Either one, you got to think Brandon Trost was buried in the pack of this field in the early stage of the running, so he would have been able to save a lot more fuel than Holgate and Demera, who are essentially trading the cutting their way through the clean air every single lap. Also might be, just like you said, if Trost did short pit, it explains why he's suddenly so fast now, when earlier on he got himself up to about 6th or 7th, and then he just sort of stabilized there, wasn't able to really get his way to the front of the field.
Your mid-pack has started to break up a little bit as well, as we've got ourselves now half a second gap between Rick Music, who's in P number 14, at the very end of your front pack. It's actually about half a second to Chad Simpson, who runs himself in P number 15. Simpson then 1.1 seconds, but ahead of Nars Anders in the number 18 car. And then from Anders to Marcus Jensen is about 2 tenths of a second, side by side going on behind that battle though, and that is for P number 18 on track, and that is between the drivers of Graham Bunyan and Liam Quinn there, Cisco.
Yeah, and Bunyan there representing, of course, we talked about the Australasian group here, and he's got Holden on the car, so repping Australia there on the side, and Bunyan having a very decent race right now, started 22nd, he's up to 18th, and we just saw Liam Quinn go by him. Quinn also kind of up positions, he started 23rd, and he's now 18th.
As Quinn there in that 18th position, there's a look there at Graham Bunyan in the number 6 machine as he heads himself towards turn number 3 once again in the Australasia place car. And actually not a bad run there going on for Graham Bunyan. Is behind. You got a side by side going on again. This is for P number 22 on track. And these battles on the rear of the field, we cannot ignore them though, Randy, because they may well be critical later on in the motor race.
They very well could. It'd be interesting to see people deeper in the field. If they are fuel saving hard, they might be able to make something of this, especially if we get long green flag runs in this motor race. It's important to note, though, we are starting to feel start to string itself out. Top 10 pretty much still well aligned, but once you start getting back to about 13th, 14th, you start getting about 1 second gap, 2 cars, and then from there it's basically strung out as well. There's a secondary pack towards the back of the field at about the last 9 or so spots, but we are starting to see that separation from some of the quicker guys up front and the slower guys in the middle on back.
Having a look then back towards the front of your field, Brandon Trost leads away right now from Tim Holgate. The gap is 2 tenths of a second. That is what 2 tenths of a second looks like. 2 car lengths here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We talk about the fact you go the base of a football field in every second that you do around this racetrack. On board with Tim Holgate through turn number 3, turn number 4. Let's ride a lap on board of him. Racesport TV, fan immersion. Tim Holgate then back to the race lead here on lap number 44, Andy.
Yeah, the great move by Tim Holgate going up into corner number 1 on Brandon Trost. We've been talking about that 10 machine maybe saving fuel, but he got himself the race lead, Will, and he is actually stretching a gap over Brandon Trost right now. Look at the lead he has.
Indeed, so the gap is currently 3 tenths of a second. In fact, that's one of the largest gaps we've actually had all race long, and this actually then comes back down, Cisco, to the things we were talking about earlier on. The likes of drivers using those in-car tools, the anti-roll bars, the weight jacker, but also the way you set yourself up at the start of a run in terms of wing levels, and also Brandon Trost all of a sudden might want to do a little bit of fuel saving.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and this race in these cars is probably the most work you'll see drivers do right now as we see Christopher Demare jump to the inside of Brandon Trost. Unlike in maybe, say, the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series or maybe even the World Championship Grand Prix Series, these drivers have a lot of control over these cars. We talked about the weight jacker, we talk about the wing adjustments. That's all stuff the driver does. You can't have the spotter do that. So the driver's a lot more on their plate, but that allows them a lot more control and be able to dictate how they want to run this race.
As Brandon Trost was able to then keep that second place away from Christopher Demare, the outside line actually started this motor race here, Randy, not working badly.
Trost has held on to a couple outside moves, actually, and I'm actually curious about what it is that's happening, because watching him, I was initially thinking he may be really trimmed out, which is why we see him going up high. You see in turn 3 right now, he's running like the middle groove, and I'm trying to figure out whether he has that car so trimmed out that he needs the clean air up there, but at the same time, you usually can't make running that high work unless the car has a bunch of arrows slammed onto it, so it's really weird watching Brandon run this race the way he is right now, because it doesn't really make sense why he'd be so far up the racetrack so often.
As Demare still in that third place, does not try and make that move back over Brandon Trost then, as we are now onto lap number 47 of 200, getting close to 1/4 race distance here. Kevin Ellis Jr. versus Austin Espartee. That one going on a little bit further down in your field there, Cisco. P number 11 versus P number 12.
Yeah, and Ellis kind of fell off the back end of Espartee going through 3, but he's going to get a huge run out of 4 here, and that Apex driver going to look to see when he can make that move. No, he's just going to drop in behind Espartee here, so unless he makes the move to the inside here, I think the 3 is just fuel save mode right now. Kevin Ellis taking it easy right now in the early stages.
And you hear the word fuel save, and it's not a derogatory term that we're talking about here, Cisco. We're talking about the ways of success here at Indianapolis, and fuel saving is one of them. Think about Alexander Rossi, of course, last year in the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500. Think about actually what Dan Weldon did in 2011, fuel saved and then went for it at the last opportunity because he knew that he had enough fuel to go at the end, and that actually was the only reason why he won that race over J.R. Hildebrand, because if Hildebrand had actually hit the wall and Weldon wasn't on it, then actually Hildebrand would have still won the race.
Absolutely, as we saw Tanner J. Watkins just lose out of position, I believe, to Jeff Drake right there. But you're absolutely right. It's one of those things you can constantly do here, and if we're at a point where everyone's single file, you're better off just saving that fuel, because you're going to be better towards the end of this thing. And we like to talk about these, the drivers, their fuel strategies here. Some of these guys like to count backwards like you would at, say, a road course in NASCAR, or some of these guys trying to shoot for that fuel number. They want to go this many laps each sort of stint. That's probably what these guys are going for right now, shooting for that fuel number. Got to hit this many laps. That way make the fewest amount of stops as possible.
Always count backwards, Randy. That's the thing. Always count backwards.
Yeah, that's a big way of what you can do. Just some people, they find it easier, other people don't. I always prefer just counting forwards, but that's just me personally, just the way my mind personally works. But talking about this race right now, Will, Tim Holgate has managed to break the draft over Christopher Demare as well as Brandon Trost. That said, Demare picked up the second spot from Trost a couple laps ago, and he has blitzed away from the driver of that number 14 car. I think that Trost just put it into ultra fuel save save mode because he went from lightning quick, capable of leading to this race, to within a couple laps, he's fallen back into the clutches of Jeff Drake.
Well, let's think back to the race that took place yesterday, though, Randy, because we had a very, very, very long green flag run, and that's always in the back of drivers' heads. If there is a long green flag run, you want someone to be on track with you at the same time. You don't want to be that driver that comes on towards pit road yourself, because when you come out, it's a bit like NASCAR at Talladega or Daytona. You want the draft because you want that to help A, your top speed, but B, also your fuel efficiency.
Yeah, that's pretty much spot on. You can drive some of your ultimate quickest laps in clean air. However, you do want the ability to save gas with the draft. But right now for Brandon Trost, he's about to end up in a situation where he's not really going to be able to do either or, because I think he's going to lose that draft to Christopher DeMera here in just a moment, and he's going to basically be having to sit out there, I think likely starting to save fuel, and he's not going to have any slipstream to work with. The only other thing I can think of, Will, is that Holgate and DeMerit had been fuel saving, and they just decided to stop, and for that reason, that's why they're blitzing away from Brandon Trost the way they are right now.
Yeah, and that's a gap right there that we've got. It's about 9/10 of a second. That's the worst I've ever done there on one of our little graphics on board. There we are. 1 second is the gap right now, as the draft will really kick in about 6/10 to 7/10 of a second here, Cisco, and it means that the driver of Christopher DeMera is back in draft range barely over Tim Holgate, and it's been a battle for him the last couple of laps to keep in that draft range, but Brandon Trost really now has fallen out of that, and that is going to make a big impact as we head ourselves closer and closer to pit stops, because they will be coming now in 5 laps time. Oh, we've got Trost in already.
All right, so there we have it. Brandon Trost in. So confused, really. I guess these guys maybe deciding to short pit a little bit early. He's not the only one. Chin's also going to be in, as will Chad Simpson. A couple other drivers. I believe I see Niles Anders. So I would assume we're going to see everyone in here in maybe a lap or so, because these fuel windows are going to be so tight.
Well, you know what I said earlier on, actually, Randy? The fact that Brandon Trost was about 7/10 of a second faster on pit road. Well, there's a reason why. Evidently, he took less fuel on board.
Well, this is actually about the window we're expecting. We're expecting about 29 to 33 laps. We went back to green flag racing on lap number 24. We are now working lap number 54. So 30 laps in, this is scheduled to stop, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, as Holgate's on towards pit road. DeMerit stays out to do another lap, but Tim Holgate then does come on towards pit road, this time by Andrew Kinsella. Tanner Watkins et al. Will join him on pit road. So this first pit stop, it's not about being perfect, but you don't want to speed, you don't want to slip through your pit stall. We did see, actually, Randy, a couple of drivers sliding through their stall, and you talk about the difficulties here. It's a concrete pit stall compared to an asphalt pit lane here.
Yeah, the actual lane itself is asphalt, as Christopher DeMera is going to come back down on a pit lane. That's going to allow Josh Chin to breathe a sigh of relief, as he's now going to pick his lead lap back up. Would have been disaster for anyone trapped down a lead lap there. But, I mean, you're absolutely right. I had issues with it in yesterday's race. I think I got the right side of the cars up onto the asphalt. I think that right rear tire caught, and I spun myself into the wall at the end of the second pit stop. All these drivers are going to have to be careful about that as well.
So there's DeMerit then on towards pit road. Let's listen in. Fuel's in. 11.4 seconds out and away he comes then. But will he be able to stay out ahead of that driver of Tim Holgate? The answer is it's going to be very, very close. It was 36.7 seconds on the lane for him. He was actually half a second slower on pit road, and that translates actually there to about half a second on the racetrack, Cisco. We talk about how important pit entry, pit exit is here today. There is your first opportunity to see that in motion, because now DeMerit has actually lost there about 2-3 tenths of a second. That's the difference between draft range and not draft range.
Yeah, we were talking about him being on the edge of that 0.6 of a second gap. Well, that's gone. It's now 0.7 right now. Demerit has to really push to get back in that draft range so he can start fuel saving again. But I mean, we talked about the pit road in total, and I mean, the stop itself, Tim Holgate had 10.6, Christopher Demerit had 11.7 purely based on the stop, so that's where the time went. And for Demerit, you know, maybe it's every second you lose on pit road is going to equate hugely to what you're losing on track.
Rick Music does his pit stop. He was the last of the drivers then to come on towards pit road that last time by. That's something we're going to have to keep in the back of our heads there, Randy, because Rick Music evidently very good then on managing that fuel number as Holgate back out to the race lead with half a second gap between Christopher Demerit. Demerit very strong on these first lap or so out of pit road because he's closed that gap now. He's back in draft range and pulling ahead of Brandon Trost.
Demerit does indeed look very good here towards the end of that last run, and at the start of that last run he looked very strong. It's through the middle I think he went into fuel conservation mode, but you're absolutely right about the 23 of Rick Music. He's really the one on Rossi watch right now in terms of how he's going to save fuel. Also keep an eye on some movers and shakers through that first round of pit stops. Joshua Chin came in around 10th or 11th. He comes out 8th. I think he's the big mover when it comes to pit strategy through that first time. As the race lead is heating up, Holgate and Demerit fight for it. Holgate holds it for now.
He was right behind him actually in towards turn number 1 there, Cisco, but he couldn't seal the deal. Back he goes into the draft though, and the gap between himself and Brandon Trost now 1.2 seconds. That one is important because your top two now have broken away in this field.
And we talked about that during the pre-race show, Will. That idea of you could get the biggest run in the world, but if you don't leave yourself enough time to get past that actual cars, we're going to see Demerit going to jump on the inside. Job done easily there for the 5. But he gave himself plenty of time that lap to do that. A lap ago, he would have caught him right at the end of the corner. That could have been a huge catastrophe there if Demerit had tried to make the pass. So he waited a lap, made sure he had a good run, and bam, he's right past Holgate and in the lead now.
Yeah, behind you got Kevin Ellis Jr. versus Martin Miller. This is for P number 9, P number 10. Talk us through this battle, Randy.
So like we talked about somewhat in the pre-race, going down into turns number 3, Kevin Ellis Jr. has the lead. That's going to give Martin Miller a big slipstream advantage. However, Martin is someone who traditionally races very smart here. Martin doesn't just race with his feet, he also races with his brain, always thinking about fuel strategy, always thinking about how to set up the car, what adjustments to the car, but Martin's deciding to play it quick here, goes to the inside into 1. Look at him pick up that spot. Kevin Ellis Jr., he quickly gets himself back into line. That way the driver of Josh Scrupa behind isn't able to make a move. Now the table's somewhat turned. Martin Miller, he's going to be the one cutting through the air, and because of that, Kevin Ellis Jr. might be able to utilize that slipstream and get up behind him and make a move. Going down the back straightaway for the first time, Miller's able to stretch a bit of an advantage due to the situation with the arrow push through 1 and 2, but as they start to come off the north end of the racetrack at turn number 4, gets a bit of a gap, able to get some clean air, Cisco. Here comes the draft again. Will Kevin Ellis Jr. get to make a move? No, he's not close enough yet. Miller will stay up out in front for now. However, Ellis Jr., he's going to be feeling that dirty air behind that number 8 machine.
And if you're Martin Miller, you have to think, man, I just wish I was closer to that car in front of me because he'd be able to put on a better defense against Ellis, but it's just not possible right here. So Ellis, we're talking about, he's going to get a decent run going down the backstretch. Not going to happen. I would assume he's going to make that move out of turn 4. So Will, as we come out of the north end of the speedway here, back onto the front straightaway for Martin Miller, he really just has nowhere to go.
Yeah, that's right. He's now got to just hope that he doesn't lose too much time, I would say, behind Kevin Ellis Jr. Well, in front and ahead of Kevin Ellis Jr. Now behind Kevin Ellis Jr. as they cycle through turn number 1. Ellis Jr. will take that position there over Martin Miller. And this is another thing about Indianapolis here, Cisco. You don't always want to defend those positions too heavily because the more you defend the position, A, the more you're going to be losing time because you're taking weird lines. B, the more you're going to abuse your tires and your fuel.
And that's going to have a negative effect on your car. If you're racing that guy, you're just losing more time to the leaders here, and we kind of seen this effect happen. I mean, Josh Chin, who was in front originally of Martin Miller, has been able to open up that gap between Ellis, Miller, and Skrupa. All those guys have been able to kind of pull away here. So Ellis, meanwhile, is starting to pull away, but Randy, we know Martin Miller's going to catch him, and they're going to battle, and they're going to continue to battle, and all that entire time, they're just going to lose time to Chin and all the cars in front of them.
Well, it is sort of a catch-22 because actually you can get around this racetrack very quickly utilizing the draft and swapping spots back and forth. However, both drivers have to work nicely with one another. It's basically a situation where if you're the guy, the position ahead, you don't want to try to block or be aggressive at all with that person making the move. You essentially are utilizing the advantage of the draft, getting past, and then going into the corner. You don't get into that dirty air, and you essentially leapfrog your way potentially up through the field. Someone who's found a big head of steam, though, this second stint is Joshua Chin. I guess third stint maybe a little bit more accurate. Starting to reel in the likes of Bradley Walters, Tanner J. Watkins, even Austin Espity. That number one machine is quickly approaching the top five, Cisco.
Yeah, Chin, of course, full disclosure, is your teammate, but he came into this race. Keep in mind, this is his fourth Indy 500 in a row here, and he comes in and runs these, but not a huge Indy guy for the most part. But hey, he jumps in the car, and we talked about these ringers that come into this races, and Chin is one of those guys. We don't see him in the Indy car every single week, but he's one of these guys who has experience kind of in other series, similar to what a Fernando Alonso would be doing in real life. These guys have experience outside these cars, but they put all their effort towards the 500 because it's the 500.
We did see a lot of Joshua Chin once upon a time. You go, Randy.
That's what I was going to say. It's weird considering someone like Josh Chin as a bit of an IndyCar ringer, considering he almost won a couple of the bigger high-end private leagues, the championships at one point. He's been dominant on the road courses as well. Some of the battles he's had with Tim Holgate over the years, as well as some of the other drivers, have been fantastic.
You know what? He came so close to winning one of the private leagues, the 16th Street Racing League, which was sanctioned by IndyCar a couple of years ago. And a really good partnership, by the way, between IndyCar and iRacing, which is why Rose be wondering, why do we have IndyCar commercials on Racewatch TV? Well, it's because of that relationship that we have with IndyCar themselves. And, well, Joshua Chin once upon a time was a driver who was really active in terms of running this car, but he's kind of dropped off, and that's the thing. A lot of these drivers no longer race his car full time. They are part-timers that will come out for one of the two races a year. Now we've got ourselves Tim Holgate, Christopher Demerit once again battling it out. 2.1 seconds between Tim Holgate and Jeff Drake right now behind him in third place. Jeff Drake up into that third position, Cisco.
Yeah, Drake's done an excellent job, and Trost, meanwhile, has kind of fallen back to fourth, and he's really in danger. If he doesn't pick up the pace, he needs to make sure he stays with that 13, or otherwise he's going to probably fall into the clutches of Austin Espity and Tanner Watkins, who have been kind of running nose to tail this entire time working together, as Tanner Watkins actually just got really loose going into 3. But for Trost, he has to make sure you got to stay within that 6/10 range, or else you're going to lose that draft, and sooner or later you're going to get caught.
Almost a 1/3 distance here, Randy. One caution so far here today, one green flag pit stops, and actually we're halfway through another green flag fuel run. It's that quick.
Yeah, I mean, 29 laps sounds like a lot, and I was actually talking about this with the Banshee guys. We were talking about some of the differences between testing and tinkering in these cars versus where I'm a little bit more of an expert in the GT stuff. And one of the drivers, I think it was actually Jeff Drake, he was complaining that he hated every time he made an adjustment, he'd have to do a full run. And we did the time. A full run for these guys ends up being about 20 minutes. And then I explained he should try the GT3 cars, where every adjustment you make has to make sure it can work on double stinted tires. So any setup adjustment is basically 90 minutes to 2 hours worth of testing potentially going down the drain if you don't like that adjustment on the old tires.
But we talk about the testing that these drivers do here, Cisco. It is insane, and the craziest story I ever heard was a former iRacer, Monica Clara Brand, who of Ludicrous Speed fame. In fact, her teammate is here today in Niles Anders, and well, she wanted 20,000 laps worth of testing for the iRacing Indy 500. 20,000 laps around Indy. You often wonder why, as soon as the month of May is over, people don't want to see Indy for a few months, because they have burnt themselves out preparing for this one race.
And this is something we've even seen on the real life side. I mean, you know, I got to see the first test not too long ago over in IMS, what was it, just over a month ago. And I mean, guys there testing, and they've had this whole past week in real life to test there. So, you know, for the guys on iRacing, they just have access to the track 24/7. So guess what? You can hop in there and do 20,000 laps. And I think, Randy, you know the quote better than I did. I think you talked to Brandon Traino over the course of the week about his sort of testing.
Yeah, I mean, the Traino tests a lot, and you know, talking about these guys, you know, Will mentions that, you know, 20,000 laps. Part of the reason the racing, I don't want to say it's so boring, but the racing is so, because the cars are so able to stay single file, is because these teams and these drivers have these cars figured out. And you know, I know what you're talking about, Cisco, and this is a bit of a broken arrow story, but Brandon Traino once texted his teammate Christopher Demerit after a day of testing, and Traino basically said, I found 2,000ths of a second at Indy. Today was a good day. These guys, they're going to the half an inch in terms of perfection.
And when you consider the drivers that didn't make this broadcasted race, it was thousandths of a second. That was a day's worth of work. And you know, you do often have these situations when people say, oh, the setups are so closely guarded here in the IndyCar community, you know, it's unfair, it's too difficult to get into this event. Yeah, it is difficult to get into this event because of the fact that these guys put everything on the line for this one race a year, and also partially because of the fact that, you know, these drivers are so talented when it comes to running this racetrack. They get themselves, you know, 3 different opportunities forward some years to run an Indy 500, and yellow
Caution
on the racetrack.
It's going to be Andrew Kinsella in the 27.
Second yellow of the day then. So here we are, replay as we have a look at the driver of Andrew Kinsella. His luck seems to have run out here today. Cisco, talk us through it.
And that was just a case. I think he got just a tiny piece. No, actually what happened, he got the bump going into the turn 2, trying to get that apex. He got a little piece of the bump, pushed the car straight up into the wall. Game over for the 27. He tried to save it, but once you get that wall coming out of turn 2, that's basically, you're basically writing that car off after that one.
Hello, turn 2, my old friend. We've only had one of those.
Put me in the wall again.
Yeah. So yellow is out. Everyone should come on towards pit road. What has just happened to Rick Music? He has just pulled that car off of the racetrack. Something's just happened to him. Replay that for him. Okay.
He looks in control. I hate to say it, but emergency maybe? Personal issue?
Yeah. Wow. Rick Music. And actually, that's one of those drivers. We'll talk about him in a moment's time. That, you know, he has got a very good pedigree here. He's been a pole position driver before. P1 Racing Team. Arguably one of the best IndyCar teams in the history of iRacing. Rick Music out of the motor race by the look of it. Pit road is open. Everyone on pit road right now. Demerit leads the field in. Side by side then, Brandon Truth versus Jeff Drake. They're going to have to sort that one out in a moment's time because they, at some point, they actually have to come in towards their pit box. Everyone is in there, Cisco. Who's going to win it? Demerit or someone else?
We'll have to see. Cars on pit road now. Demerit's always had a great pit road exit the 2 times we've seen him down. I expect no different. No, the 5's going to wait on field. It's going to be close. I think Holgate got him. By an inch, I couldn't tell.
No, Demerit's taking the lead.
For the moment, but it does look as though, if we have a look from my helicam, I'm gonna have to potentially agree and say that Tim Holgate might have, just beat him out the line, because Demerit was, of course, if you've got the first place grid stall there, you generally don't get yourself fully up to pit road speed by the time you exit your pit stall to the end of pit road. I've got the feeling that it is Tim Holgate, but we're going to have one more look then and pause it here. You can see Holgate's behind, and then actually what happened was Demerit slid, but at the point that he slid, I do think actually Demerit might well have just about kept that one there. So it's going to be Demerit, then Holgate, Jeff Drake, Bestwick, Brandon Troyce, Bradley Walters. They are your top 5. Back to more after this.
Watch Ernie, go, go, go. Car right, car right, car right, car right. Watch, car right. Watch, jam it. Get ready. Dude, heads up in that. Jeez.
Right on the back wing. Can he make it happen?
Yeah! Push like hell. We gotta stay in front of these guys.
Both drivers on the push to pass. Contact in the pit lane.
All right, sexy. Let that eagle fly. What do I do? What happened? Push here. Push hard. Let's go get this guy. Car outside. Through behind you. So, clear outside. Good job. Just spun behind you. I don't know if you got him or not.
He got out of it so hard. Look at these guys are all over the back.
Full throttle.
IndyCar.
The in and out lap.
What's next?
Come and get the checkers, big boy. Oh, baby, that was good. Hit me. Inside, outside, outside.
2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. See what's next.
Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the 101st edition of the Indianapolis 500 will be on ABC next Sunday. Join Alan Bestwick in his final year of IndyCar commentary, so it'll seem, and that's going to be a huge shame. Shout out to Alan Bestwick for all he's done on commentary for ESPN, ABC, and the Indianapolis 500. Will be joined by Scott Goodyear and Eddie Cheever. The 101st edition of the Indianapolis 500 on ABC, BT Sport in the United Kingdom. Watch ESPN around the world. Lights off from the pace car on towards pit road. Cisco, it's time to go green flag racing once again. No one for the moment. It looks as though they all got through without too many incidents there as well. As yeah, as we're on board of Brandon Troyce, he's going to work on the outside of Jeff Drake. He'll get that position. But Tim Holgate then, back to the point here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Troyce on the high side right now. Jeff Drake is still kind of there in the mix behind, actually. Bradley Walters now looking for a piece of Jeff Drake in towards turn number 1. It's all going on here, Andy.
Everyone's fighting. Apparently everyone's got a fuel number, and they're like, we really want to fight for position. Right now, all of your leading cars swapping spots every single corner, it seems like. A little deeper back as well. Joshua Chin has picked up a spot or two, and then he lost one to Josh Struble, but your top 6 as they run, still fighting. Tim Holgate goes back to the point.
Yep, there is Christopher DeMeritt on board of him then as he circulates through turn number 3, through turn number 4 right now. Is he going to do the Christopher DeMeritt patented run to the line? The answer is yes, going to be Cisco. DeMeritt's going to lead the lap one more time.
DeMeritt across the line gets the lap led, and he's going to fall in front of Tim Holgate. Now Holgate has to worry about defense from Brandon Troyce there right behind him out of turn 2 once again, and Troyce looking to see where he can get that advantage, but he's actually going to lose out. Holgate, a very good turn 2 exit, and he's hunting for DeMeritt right now. He's going to jump to the inside. Turn 3, it's going to be Tim Holgate, and DeMeritt now has to rebound.
Yep, so the top 3 drivers then still going at it. And of course, this helps Brandon Troyce quite a bit because once again, he is in that draft and he's going at it for your race lead because he had fallen back to about 4 seconds at one point here, Cisco. And now, with that caution, he's back in this motor race, that number 80 of 200.
Yeah, and DeMeritt coming through turn 2 again, and he's done a great job of being able to grab that lead going into turn 1 on the south end of the speedway. But here comes Holgate again. They just keep swapping back and forth. This race
Demerit versus Holgate. You know what? If this comes down to the final lap, I've got shades of Marco Andretti coming through my head right now here, Randy. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we've got shades of Marco Andretti potentially coming through here, Randy, if we end up with this on the final lap.
Yeah, I mean, the question's going to be, though, who's going to be Marco Andretti and who's going to be Sam Hornish coming off of corner number 4. Right now, how can you really pick them? You look at the top 6, top 7, all in a row here. They come off of corner number 2 and down your back straightaway, and there's still competitive guys behind them. Josh Krupa, Josh Chin, Kevin Ellis Jr. Those guys back there, they're maintaining pace. They're just a little bit further back at the moment.
Lap number 81 of 200 going on here. Kevin Ellis Jr. versus Joshua Chin. That one going on for P number 9 on track right now. And well, these top 10 drivers have been the top 10 drivers all race long. It's Joshua Chin down to the inside. That's a big move there over Josh Gupta. That was a huge move there, Randy.
Josh Chin has been complaining over the radio of Josh Krupa. Krupa sort of one of the ringers here, and he's made a couple aggressive moves in 2 after Josh made the move in 1. That's part of the reason why they've lost his train. I think Chin wants to put that number 4 machine in his mirrors for good, and because of that, he made a big move into 1. However, he wasn't able to break away, so Krupa's going to fire back down into 1 for sure.
On board then with Kevin Ellis Jr. as they work themselves now through turn number 4. In towards 1 they come once again.
And Skrupa got a great run through there, and Chin had to back out of the throttle. The aero push forced him backwards. He's going to have to get the run out of turn 2 here, Will, and hope. But look at how much ground Chin lost because Skrupa got that run perfectly, and Chin doesn't have to worry about Skrupa. He's to worry about Kevin Ellis right behind him.
Here we go then through turn number 3. Turn number 2 they come once again down towards turn number 4. And these little battles going on, we have to also give credit to the fact 26 drivers are still running in this event as we come ourselves towards a halfway point in this motor race. The drivers out: Chad Simpson, Andrew Kinsella, Vic Cordell, John Porzak, Michelle Constantini, Tim Hauser, and Tim Doyle right now. Brandon Trost in the 3rd position versus Tim Holgate versus Christopher Demerit as the drivers battle up towards the north end of the racetrack, turn number 3 and 4 again. And this time, Brandon Trost seems to be unwilling to allow these 2 drivers to pull away. Part of that is because Brandon Trost actually spent longer on pit road compared to his rivals that last time by, Randy.
He really did, and it's going to be interesting to see what Trost is able to do through this run, because Tim Holgate looks like he's going into Tim Holgate mode when it comes to saving fuel here. He got a big run on Demerit going down into 1. He just lifts out of it, so it's going to be interesting to see, does this top 7 group, do they start toning it down? Do they start saving fuel at this point in the run?
As we ride on board then with Brandon Trost. Behind him, we've still got a little bit of battling going on. And in your mid-pack, and well, we were worried here at C Cisco that we'd be in a situation where there'd be no overtaking and we'd have almost a New Hampshire 2000 moment in the NASCAR series, Winston Cup series as it was back then. We haven't got that. We've got little battles going on up and down the field, and that's what I love about this event because, you know, qualifying was so close, the racing is very close as well, and even though it's no longer a 20-car pack, we are seeing drivers involved in their own little battles here in this 8th annual iRacing Indy 500.
Absolutely, and Tim coming into turn 3 right now. I mean, Tim Holgate versus Christopher Demerit. You could trace that rivalry back several years now between those 2. Those guys know how to have at it, and they're doing a great job right now. But what's been interesting to see, we kind of have this kind of breakaway pack. You see John Gorlinski in the number 2, that bright yellow car. He's kind of the end of this first pack. Then you go all the way back, and that's Niles Anders, Liam Quinn, and that second group. So kind of a breakaway pack for the top 10 or top 11 as it were, and everyone else is kind of falling off the back end, so it allows these guys to be able to battle that little bit harder.
As we're having a look down in your pack, Brandon Lichtenberg, actually, we're talking about drivers out of position. This is one driver who really is out of position right now. Brandon Lichtenberg, Randy, P number 22 right now versus Randy Krosno. Of course, Krosno was involved in the incident at the very, very start of this motor race.
Yeah, Lichtenberg's likely not going to be happy about that, but that's the thing. Exactly how competitive this field is. There's experienced and competitive guys in this field that have struggled. You talk about Niles Anders, he's currently outside the top 10. Talk about Martin Miller, he currently runs 16th. Martin was at one point one of the dominant drivers in the IndyCar. Randy Krosno and Lichtenberg outside of the top 20. And then you talk about Vic Caudill, John Porzuk, TM Hauser, Classic IndyCar Series Indy 500 winner, and Tim Doyle, of course, didn't start the race. Lot of experienced guys running down or out of this motor race.
As we just saw Michael Chin as well. He's one of those drivers again, very rear end of the top 20. Michael Chin, he is a long-time veteran of the IndyCar series. We go on boarding actually now in that Club Ohio machine. And Randy, another driver, because of how competitive this event is, you give a normal IndyCar race, Michael Chin will be top 5 easily. But today, the pressure, the competition, the level of this driving talent here, Michael Chin, P number 19, of course, he's still got over half the race to run, but you'd argue that Michael Chin is another driver not particularly happy of where he is right now.
Undoubtedly, I think everyone right now who's down near this top 20 probably a little bit frustrated with how their day is going. There's probably some people, maybe someone like Marcus Jensen, someone who's not usually an IndyCar guy, that's maybe quite happy with the way his day is running. As I mentioned, Jensen, he makes the moves on Liam Quinn going down into one. Is caution out on the racetrack. Oh, big incident. This is Tanner J. Watkins, who's running 6th. Potential issue for your top 5.
Yep, so there is Watkins upside down on his roof. Replay then coming up for you. Turn 1. Oh, big incident down in turn number 1. Tanner Watkins upside down and around there. Another driver was involved in that one. We'll get a replay, show it to you again. In towards turn number 1, it was a number 9 machine involved in that one as well, and that was Austin Espartee there. As a consequence of that one, the Team Afterburn number 9 car involved, and well, that was not a pretty moment in towards turn number 1. As we ride on board with Austin Espartee on the replay in towards 1. You can't really put blame on that one too much there, Cisco. It was 2 drivers in turn number 1, very close together, and quite often things happen. If you're going to put the blame on anyone, I can't.
Well, you're not going to put the blame on them, but definitely they're having at it over the in-sim audio right now. So those guys are going to talk it out over the radio. But I will say, Espartee down on the bottom side, we talked about that arrow push. That's what happens. The 9 got that arrow push. Maybe didn't apex quite to the level he was comfortable with. And as a result, you know, contact made. But I can't say that was intentional one way or the other. Just a race and deal here at Indy.
Can I just say, can we get a replay of that incident on board with either Josh Scooper or Josh Chin? Because I actually watched Chin, because Chin just barely slipped through, and ahead of him you're going to see Scrupa go underneath the flipping car.
Well, okay. Seeing as we've got ourselves a moment, pit road is open. All the drivers coming down on towards pit road. We'll go back to that one in just 1 second's time. But this is the driver. No, it's not. Of Josh Chin. So we're going to have to try and replay this one a little bit for you. We are going to try and go on board with Josh Chin, as this will be then. Here we are on board with Josh Chin as the driver's just ahead of him. That's what you're going to pay attention to. In towards turn number 1, the number 6 machine, so number 1 machine coming down in towards that first corner. There you can see the incident just ahead of them. And this is what we talk about. Heads up driving every single corner. Those 2 drivers, number 4 and number 1 machine, very lucky not to be involved in that one. Pit road is open. Drivers coming out of pit road: Demerit, Trost, Jeff Drake, Tim Holgate, down to P number 5, Cisco.
And that was very odd for Tim Holgate. I'm looking at the pit road time. He lost 2 seconds, but I don't know where it was. It wasn't on the pit stop. He was actually quicker than Christopher Demerit in the box, so that must have been a very odd exit for Tim Holgate, and I'll have to look back at it to see what happened, but Holgate just lost a ton of time.
Doesn't matter yet for any of these drivers.
Oh, he slid through. That's what happened. He missed his box. You can't do that.
We've seen this before. John Porzick did this a couple of years ago, and that cost him the chance to win an Indy 500. Ironically, in 2014, when Tim Holgate actually won the motor race, it was so close that year. John Porzick slid through his pit stall. Here's a replay then of Tim Holgate coming on towards pit road. And you see, sliding free, reversing back. That's 1.5 seconds. Bump! That is what you have. And that's what's going to cost you a number of places. He does end up coming out of pit road, almost making contact with number 24, Bradley Walters, as he did so, actually. Very close. Those two could have been involved in a big incident coming off of pit road. But halfway through the motor race, if you're going to slide through pit road, Randy, better to do it now than on the final pit stop of the day, as John Porzick learned a couple of years ago.
I mean, you're absolutely right. This is the point I think you're getting to, where from here to the end of the race, you have to be absolutely perfect. You can't make those same mistakes here in the next 100 laps and expect to be able to work your way back up in the field. You're just not going to have the time. I don't care if you're Tim Holgate. I don't care if you're Yang O. Put yourself at the back foot with 100 laps to go. Good luck getting yourself back towards the front.
Indeed so. There is Christopher Demerit. The lights are out on top of the pace car then. We're going to go back racing in half a lap's time right now. And well, in this run, we are going to see, even if it was go caution basically in the next 2 laps time, Cisco, we're going to go to halfway point in this motor race. And of course, what we'll talk about in a few moments' time is the halfway winners and losers.
Yeah, and definitely we've already had some big losers kind of fall out of this race. Guys like T.M. Hauser, Vic Caudell, Andrew Kinsella, guys we expected to be up front all day today. And just now, Tanner Watkins had a huge blow to his Indy 500 hopes. That's not going to happen for him. So a lot of drivers we expect to see up front just aren't going to be there. And sadly for those guys, not going to be able to move on.
Heading ourselves back to green then, here on RaceSpot TV. Time for some RaceSpot TV fan immersion. You just saw that, 3 wide out turn number 4. They survived there, Cisco. Barely.
Yeah, barely survived, and Demerit clinging on to the lead right now, but Trost doesn't want any of it. He wants that lead.
I think we're okay. Carry on.
All right. Trost, he really wants that lead right now, but there's actually a battle right behind him. Actually, is Trost going to try and... No, he's not going to do it this time. There was a quick battle between Walters and Holgate. Holgate falling further and further down the field. He's down to 5th right now. So Holgate either in massive fuel conservation mode, it won't matter, yellow. Yeah. Oh, big problem, Skolinski.
And, well, I've got a feeling this was connected with what I was talking about a moment ago. Gorlinski then... all of this motor race. We're going to get ourselves a replay as soon as we can then from Gorlinski's perspective. Let's have a look on board. Now, I've got a feeling this actually starts a little bit further back from what we're going to show to you. So actually, we're going to go back a little bit. And I saw a driver down at turn number 1, and this could be Niles Anders in the number 18 machine. In towards turn number 1, we're on board with Gorlinski right now. No, okay, Anders didn't hit the wall in turn number 1. Galinsky then in towards turn number 2. You see he gets well out the gas into turn 2, pulls that car down to the inside, as if he's looking to either go into the excess lane, and then takes turn number 3 alongside there, pushed up into the wall, and Galinsky, I'm not quite sure what he was doing on the run down in towards turn number 3, but obvious lack of driver-to-driver communication there, Cisco.
And Gorlinsky very, very angry right now, I believe, with the number 20 over the radios right now. So Gorlinsky, either way, he got a terrible run coming out of turn 2, and it kind of checked up everyone behind him. So for, I don't know, it just kind of bunched up the field. We knew something was going to happen once you get that bunched up with everyone that close together, and the two just looked so tight, and he just pounded the outside wall, and that's game over for Gorlinsky right there.
Right.
I'm curious, Will, do you think this might be with Gorlinsky some of that, the IndyCar and experience you might be seeing from some of the ringers? Because watching this for me, I mean, John got a really bad run out of 2, and then he for some reason went ultra defensive down the back straightaway all the way up against the grass. Then he swung all the way back up to the wall, and I mean, Stefan Remedy was there. I think that was Stefan Remedy's spot to pick up. I think Gorlinsky turned himself on Remedy, to be honest.
I think you're right. There's something a little bit more important. We've got split strategy coming on right now. And Brandon Lichtenberg, Henry Bennett, Rick Music, Martin Miller, all coming down on towards pit road. That is important. I agree with what you were talking about there about Gorlinsky, and actually sometimes the way that this track is very difficult to understand sometimes, especially when you go from an IndyCar to a NASCAR. We'll talk about that one in 1 moment's time. Back with more after this message.
Get ready, going green. Green, green, green.
The NASCAR Beginner for Series, powered by iRacing, is the premier NASCAR esports series featuring the cars and tracks from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The 2016...
Welcome back here, ladies and gentlemen, to Racesport TV. Lap number 98 of 200 going on right now. For those of you, of course, that are paying attention to qualifications for the 101st edition of the Indianapolis 500, you might have just seen a horrible crash there for Sebastian Bourdais. If you haven't been keeping an eye out on it, we just want to let you know. If we hear anything, we will let you know on this webcast, but he's been put into an ambulance here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and been taken away, but there's a big crash there for Sebastian Bourdais. We're going to go back to green flag racing. Lap number 98 of 200 scored complete. Here is some more Racesport TV fan immersion. Three-way battle going on for your race lead right now as we're going to go three wide in towards turn number 3. Brandon Trost to the inside over Christopher Demerit, and well, Jeff Drake led the lap, but now it's a four-way battle for that race lead there, Cisco.
And Tim Holgate has made his way back into the fray for this race right now. On the outside, he's right on the rear gearbox of the 5 of Demerit. And now it's going to be Demerit back to the race lead. Drake did hold on to the lead. That was his first time in the lead, but it didn't last very long. Demerit through 2 now, and Holgate waiting to see if he can make that move.
Yep, as we're just having a look then, back at the front of your field, here comes the driver of Tim Holgate. He's going to go down to the inside and to the race lead here on lap number 101 out of 200. And well, here we are then, second half of the motor race, and it starts now here, Randy. Well, it started a lap ago, but shh.
Yes, it did, but their driver's pushing really, really hard at the moment. Demerit goes back to your race lead. Brandon Trost just sort of hanging out in that 3rd position at the moment, and we're already getting back to our big lead pack that we saw early on, back to about 9-10 cars deep right now as they race for the race lead.
Side by side once again, and the business, to quote Jim Ross here, it's just picked up in the second half of this event. I'm looking high out though on Brandon Trost. He seems to be basically trying to find the draft any way he can here, Cisco. Go a little bit high, go a little bit low, seeking that draft every opportunity he can, because he knows that minutia fuel he can save can well be important in the second half of this event. Gets way out the gas. He doesn't want to go past Tim Holgate just yet.
Yeah, and Trost, meanwhile, has been using that outside lane kind of through 3 and 4, and we've all been scratching our heads wondering what on earth he's doing up there, because it's odd to see a driver up kind of higher in the racetrack. Is Holgate going to, meanwhile, grab that lead back from Demerit? We'll keep an eye on that. But Trost, meanwhile, he's using that high line 3 and 4. We're still not really sure why.
Kevin Ellis Jr. right now runs in P number 5. He has gained up some positions in this run right now, Randy, and he's doing himself a nice little job up into P number 5. He's got SLS about 4 tenths behind him. Jeff Drake just ahead of him. Actually, we've got to give some credit here to Jeff Drake as well. He's led a lap, been absolutely flawless all race long.
Jeff's been competitive all day. He qualified that car in 3rd, and while it doesn't seem as if he's the fastest car or the fastest driver out there today, he definitely has his hat in the ring, and he is for sure one of the favorites. He's been fighting with these guys up front of Trost, Demerit, and Holgate all race long. Those 3 have been the favorites for sure out front, but Jeff Drake is still a very competitive 4th. Same like you said, though, Kevin Ellis Jr., Austin Espity, Bradley Walters, Josh Tin, Josh Krupa. I think right now those 9 all pretty much on even footing to potentially come away with this one.
Yep, so here is Tim Holgate then in that 2nd position. What I just saw there, Cisco, is what we saw in the opening stage of this motor race. The fact that Demerit is the faster driver on the straightaways, and even though Tim Holgate is probably better in the corner, can make the pass, can use that draft, Demerit, if it comes to the line, Demerit is a driver who could well win this motor race.
He absolutely can, Will, and we've seen him do it all day. He gets this really good run going down the front and back straightaway. So now the 10 going to go by here, and they're just going to swap positions for a bit. But Holgate, Demerit, those 2 are really foils. Cautions now, big wreck behind. I'm seeing smoke. I believe it is Stefan Remedy, the 20.
Well, caution number 4 of the day, big wreck then. Let's ride on board briefly with Stefan Remedy. Looks like it might well be a solo car incident.
No, Niles
Anders. Well, there is Niles Anders coming in towards turn number 1.
Super late move.
It was actually. As Remedy then turned upside down as a consequence of that one. We'll see whether we can get a look on board with Niles Anders as well at some point in a moment. But a wicked crash there for Stefan Remedy, and I don't want to labour on big crashes right now for obvious reasons, but we're going to have a look then on board with Niles Anders, lap number 107 of 200, and that one was on board with that driver of Niles Anders in towards turn number 1. You'd argue that maybe Andrews was just a little bit late coming in towards that first corner there. But Tim Holgate then, caution number 4 of the day, lap number 107 of 200, Cisco.
Yeah, and for Holgate here and Demerit and those guys up front, you have to start thinking these guys have been racing really aggressively now, so I'm wondering, what does the strategy look like? Are they racing because they know they can make it? And at what point do these guys think, okay, we've had a couple cautions, maybe I can try and cut that pit stop out? And ultimately, it's going to go from a very, very competitive race to a strategy race. It can turn just like that, Will. Once these guys hit that number, if they get like 1 lap past what a normal stint would be, they might be able to make it past 1, and they might try and save.
So here we are then. Lap number 107 or 200. Not many people came onto pit road last time by. 15 laps into a stint. That's halfway. And everyone going to come in towards pit road in your top 10 drivers. Be very interesting to see now if anyone from the rear part of your field decides to stay out and go for it. No one in your top 10, 14, 15, 16 drivers coming in. But we've got to remember still, Randy, that even though everyone's coming in, some drivers will be far quicker on this pit stop because they came in under that last caution.
And I think especially at this point, Will, because right now you're thinking you can do about 30 or so laps on a run. And actually, Tim Holgate, I think, may have missed his box again. He went into reverse for a moment, not nearly as much, but he still missed it again. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him drop a couple of spots. What happened?
So many people there. There are 3 wide coming in and out of pit road. Jeff Drake will come out with your race lead there. Then it'll be Demerit. And then it'll be Brandon Trost. It's showing a little bit of odds here, but we do believe it's Chef Drake who will come out with your race lead. We'll confirm that one in a moment's time. But there were 4 wide coming out of pit road there, Cisco.
Yeah, they were, and looking at the tape, it is going to be Jeff Drake who's going to inherit that lead from Christopher Demerit. But no, pit road was absolutely crazy. The other problem we had was, I think what broke us up was Martin Miller, who has one of the front pit stalls there, very further back in the pack. He came into his pit box rather, just as Trost was leaving, so that was a huge scramble right there. So we are just all over the place right now. Guys coming in and out of the box, it's chaos down there, and well, they made it work. No one spun this time.
Indeed not. Jeff Drake does lead the way in terms of this motor race. Lap number 108 of 200 here. To give, and again, I don't like speculating too much, give a bit of an update on the Sebastian Bourdais situation. They did take him to the infield care centre rather than airlifting him to Methodist Hospital. So we are hoping that the situation isn't too bad for Sebastian Bourdais. Big cleanup underway at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I will say, Cisco, you know, we are talking about a virtual race here. Qualifying is going on for the 101st edition of the Indy 500, and we saw a big crash there for Stefan Remedy, but we've got to remember that the sim racers can always walk away. You have a crash here at Indy in a car going 230 miles an hour. Even if you walk away, a crash always hurts.
It absolutely does, Will, and you know, these drivers, sim drivers, we're fortunate we're able to see this very competitive racing because these guys don't have to worry about, you know, paying for the car, having to worry about the injuries and kind of the risk that you put yourself when you're in these cars. These guys don't have to worry about that because obviously we're out here on the virtual track, but at the end of the day, you know, these big crashes like this happen, but these guys, from everything we've seen so far, Bourdais, we're not sure yet. We don't want to say anything, so we'll let that figure itself out, and we'll return to the race that we have here because we don't want to speculate. We don't want to fill this with all sorts of rumor and stuff. So this will probably be the last time we talk about it. But let's focus on the race we have now and leave the speculating to the guys in the booth over there.
Indeed so. Jeff Drake, though, is going to be the driver to bring the field back to green flag racing here this afternoon. Lap number 109. Of 200 here in the 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. First official laps that Jeff Drake are going to lead here today in the Banshee X car versus a broken aero machine versus Brandon Trost versus Tim Holgate versus Kevin Ellis Jr. We've got 5 different teams represented inside your top 5 right now, Randy, as we go back to green flag racing.
It's fantastic, in my opinion, to see all these teams come out, but not worried about the politics at the moment. Pace car on pit lane. When does Jeff Drake go on the go pedal? Brandon Trost lining up on the inside of Demerit for some reason. Drake's going to go a little bit late. Green flag back in the air. 13 begins to stretch the gap. Let's see, how did Demerit and Trost stay close to him through 1 and 2 through the south end of the racetrack for the first time? Demerit gets a little bit of a run through the middle of 1.
Indeed, so there is Jeff Drake then. There is Christopher Demerit, Brandon Trost, Tim Holgate, Kevin Ellis Jr., your top 5, as we've got 90 laps to go here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And here comes Christopher Demerit down to the inside, back to the race lead. That's it, go.
And Trost, I thought, was going to make it 3 wide, decided against it here. He's just going to follow Demerit straight to 1 and 2 right now. Meanwhile, Tim Holgate behind those guys, looking to see when he can make that move, where he can make that move. The 13 gets an excellent run out of 4. He's going to jump to the inside at the yard of bricks. It's going to be the 13 by about half an inch, and he's able to get Demerit going into 1 here. And they're 2 by 2 by 2 going through 2.
You know what? Someone's just beaten Christopher Demerit on the run to start-finish line for the first time today here, Cisco.
And Drake did it with a huge run, too. He got it lined up, and meanwhile, they're going, it looks like, I think that's Ellis. Yeah, that's Ellis, jumped to the inside of Holgate, so the racing continues here. But, yeah, the fact Demerit got beaten to the start-finish line there means we know it's possible. Maybe these guys just not saving that fact. We know Demerit, if a guy gets a big enough run here now, we know he's not invincible at the front of this field. And a bunch of those guys right behind him are in the position to do that. Jeff Drake just showing us it is possible.
Well, let's start running through your field then here. We are past the halfway point of this motor race, and Jeff Drake now is your leader in this field. How long? We don't know for how long, but Jeff Drake then is your leader, Randy, and he's been running consistently in your top 10 since the drop of the green flag here this afternoon.
And that's all you need to do in this race. I don't think the race winner is necessarily going to be the person that leads through the first 110 or so laps. Jeff Drake, yeah, he led a couple of those, but he's mostly just cruising in the top 5, being clean, being consistent. We're quickly approaching trim out time, Will, where these guys are going to start taking aero off the car as they get closer and closer to the end of the race. Second place fights on, though. Kevin Ellis Jr. goes to the inside of Trost. Wherever he gets hung up, and I think Trost might fight back on the outside.
Yeah, and let's talk about Kevin Ellis Jr. real quick, because he's been in the running pretty much all day long here, Cisco, but now he's just deciding that he wants to say it's go time. And I would argue that for Kevin Ellis Jr., he's not necessarily wanting to get to the front of the field. What he's looking to do is see how quickly he can get to the front of the field if he needed to.
And we talked about that comfort that you have in the setup. You know, maybe the fastest car is in the car for you as long as you're comfortable. And wow, Tim Holgate, power move. He's gonna try and get 2 cars in 1 corner. The car's gonna get loose under him though. I think Holgate went for too much. He's gonna shove Trost way off the apex.
Oh, yeah, crash out of 2.
We've got ourselves
Niles.
Jamie Fluke involved in that one as well. Replay coming up. On board with Jamie Fluke as one Apex Racing UK driver is having a sterling race. Another driver has had their race just ended in towards turn number 1. There's Jamie Fluke. Anders, second incident Anders has been involved in today. This time with Jamie Fluke, and well, I want to have a look at this one from the rear of Jamie Fluke and see if we can get a better angle on that one. But it looks to be that Anders looked to go down to the inside in turn number 2. And 2 lanes into 1. Didn't work there, Cisco.
No, it didn't. And once again, the radio lighting up, but that was another late move from Anders there. And it's kind of these late moves we talk about. You know, we talked about that in the pre-race show. You have to time out that move to make sure that you're not going to make contact with the guy in front of you. And it seems like, well, he said business was picking up. That's what's happening right now. These guys, the urgency level going up a little bit, I think, too early for these guys right now. I don't think they need to be racing this hard because, well, we just saw what can happen. But these guys, we know they're going to be coming towards the end of this thing, but the intensity level went up, and Anders, I think, just a mistake. I think he thought he could get to the 16 there, but I have to wonder, was it really the best time to do that now?
Yep, as we are then lap number 115 of 200. We'll step aside for a moment here on Racesport TV and on iRacing Live. We'll be back with more after these messages.
Get ready, going green. Green, green, green.
Couple of people came in towards pit road that last time by, including Tim Holgate. Tim Holgate is the first of those drivers out of pit road. Bradley Walters came as well as Martin Miller, Brandon Lichtenberg. Split strategy time, and well, we had a bit of a first take moment off air here, Cisco. Some of us think it's not a bad idea. Others are saying, well, actually, maybe not. I would argue for Tim Holgate, if he can get through traffic, he will be okay. But he only really gained 5 laps worth of fuel. That is only, about 15% of a fuel tank. As actually, it's very interesting to know that Bradley Walters comes in to top up once again. So Walters, all of a sudden, committing to this strategy, the complete opposite of what we saw him do 2 weeks ago.
And I mean, after what happened to him 2 weeks ago in the Indy Elite Series, I don't blame him for coming in to top off here just to make sure. You don't want to get burned twice by that. But Randy, I mean, we've been debating back and forth. Is this a good idea? Is this not a good idea? Well, here's the deal. Everyone 12th place and up is 8 laps ahead on their stint, or 8 laps longer rather on their stint. Everyone 13th back is 2 laps on their stint. So you don't like it. I'm not really sure. All of us, we're not really sure. Randy, what's your take on it?
So just to explain, I mean, you can do 29 to 30 laps on a tank of fuel without saving all that hard. These guys, the last yellow came out at 109. That's when we saw the entire field pit. Then we saw about 7 laps, and then another yellow. You should be clean to make it to the end on just 2 more stops, even if you didn't pit under this caution. That's why it doesn't make any sense why either Tim Holgate as well as Bradley Walters would pit like this, because I think they're just putting themselves in losing track position when they don't need to be. I think that right now everyone up near the front can make it to the end on 2 more stops, regardless of what we see.
Meanwhile, the lights are off on top of the iRacing first safety car. Jeff Drake will bring the field back to green flag racing, and actually, if you're Tim Holgate, maybe you want to get away from this battle because it's heating up and you've seen a couple of close calls over the last couple of laps. It will be Jeff Drake, then it'll be Christopher Demerit, Brandon Truth, Kevin Ellis Jr. and Austin Espartee are your top 5. Pace car is in. We go back to green flag racing here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Waiting. Now we go. Keep an eye out on that 6th place driver, because all of a sudden Josh Grouper is there in the mix versus Austin Espartee even for P number 5 here, Cisco.
and he's one of the NASCAR ringers coming into this race, part of Unacceptable Motorsport from what I can tell. So that driver, not a huge IndyCar guy, but he's coming in today, one of the ringers we talked about. Meanwhile, side by side, both him and the cars in front of him, Ellis took a look to the inside of Drake, and Drake's already lost that lead back to Demerit.
Yes, so now Jeff Drake then looking 1 wide, 2 wide. Brandon Trost looking for the race lead versus Christopher Demerit. They all stay in line, and everyone was thinking, I want to have a go. I want to have a go in towards turn number 1. They all backed out of it, interestingly, there, Randy.
Everyone's being a little bit calm. I think that everyone wants to do a little bit of fuel saving here, because while I think you can make it to the end, I will say I do think you're going to have to save a little bit of fuel or potentially make a catch a caution. I think that's why everyone's being so patient, why Jeff Drake didn't fight so hard to retain the lead, why Trost didn't make that move into 1, and why everyone in this lead pack right now is just pretty much staying single file and cruising as they sit.
Let's keep an eye out then on Bradley Walters. He's down in P number 17. He's the driver who pitted twice.
But we're 3 wide for the lead. Jeff Drake goes to the inside, and he passes 2 cars into 1. Sorry to cut you off, Will.
Yeah, it's Indy. It happens. Through turn number 2, they come once again then as Jeff Drake takes over the race lead once again, playing the defensive line now in towards to the north end of the racetrack, turn number 3 and 4. But we'll go back and have a quick look then at the drivers who pitted. Bradley Walters currently in P number 17 right now. You've then also got yourself the driver of Tim Holgate. He's only got 1 place from where he made that pit stop. He's only in P number 12. More importantly though, Cisco, 1.2 seconds to the driver ahead of him. Actually now Rick Music.
Yeah, and he's fallen off the draft. We talked about 0.6 of a second was the sweet spot. Brandon Trost, meanwhile, going for the lead on the inside of Drake here. Trost is going to get it out of 2. And finally, Brandon Trost back up to the lead here. He's been plugging away at it for a while, and it won't matter. 3 wide once again. Demerit to the inside, Drake on the outside. And are they going to make it? Barely. They made it through 3.
They do make it though. 3 wide working in towards turn number 3, 220 plus miles an hour as they'll now come down the front straightaway towards turn number 1 again. And this time they'll stay single file for the moment. Here comes Demerit, late move down to the inside over Jeff Drake. 1, oh, a little contact there. Jeff Drake and Brandon Trost. They just about survived there, Cisco.
I don't know how they did it, but you said business is picking up. Well, it went off the scale right now, Will. We still got plenty of race to go, but these guys don't care. They're going at it like it's the last lap.
We've got 75 plus laps to go. Now Brandon Trost going to work himself around the outside, or try to work himself around the outside of the driver of Jeff Drake as they head themselves then towards the start-finish line. You notice there's a little bit of damage on that right rear. 1 wide, 2 wide, 3 wide, once again in towards turn number 1, and they still managed to make it work. You've got to give them credit here, Randy. You've got to give them credit.
This is phenomenal racing. I'm just curious which one of these 3 is going to give first. Jeff Drake might have to get forced into giving it. He's going to have Apex driver of Kevin Ellis Jr. behind him, but no, Kevin's not going to be close enough. Jeff is going to hold on to that 3rd spot, but I think one of these guys has to give at some point, Will. Becoming, better part of 80 laps left, coming to 75 to go. You do no need to be pushing 3 wide like this, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah. As here is Christopher Demerit then, who's leading the way once again. Joshua Chin running himself just on the outside of the top 5 right now. He wants to get back in. Tim Holgate is still trying to work himself up, but he's actually lost a 1/10 of a second now to Rick Music. Tim Holgate all of a sudden needs to go and figure out his strategy, because Cisco, he lost out on that restart, and as a consequence of that, now he is struggling to even keep up with these guys ahead of him.
And we talked about that 0.6 of a second. We're going to bring it up again because you have to be in that to make time, and he's not doing that right now. I mean, the cars in front of him ran a 7.19. Rick Music, who's on the tail end of that pack. Holgate, despite the fact his car may be a whole lot faster than Music, ran a 7.88 at the line this time. Music ran a 5.22 versus Holgate, who ran a 6.58. He's just losing time, Will. He's not going to be able to keep up with those guys.
Well, there's a graphic at the bottom of your screen. He lost half a second on lap number 122, lap number 123, lap number 124, also losing time. He has gained quite a bit, actually, on this lap, has Tim Holgate, as the battle ahead of them, causing them to slow down a little bit, but then they lose that time. And what Holgate really needs is Randy Lichtenberg to start being his dance partner, but Lichtenberg doesn't want to play that game right now, Randy. He's very, very happy just sticking behind and saving fuel.
And that's perfect for him, and this is part of the reason why it doesn't make much sense why Tim Holgate went on this strategy, is because if we stay green, Tim Holgate is one of, if not the best drivers in the IndyCar business of saving fuel. We've seen him time and time again win races and win championships doing that on the ovals, on the road courses. It's just what that 10 machine does. I just think that Tim, he put himself in a bad position considering we're quickly approaching the point where you're going to want to start trimming out, and if you're Tim Holgate running 12th, you can't trim that car out, whereas the likes of Demerit, Trost, Drake, Ellis, Espity, Chin, Jensen, all those guys in the top 7, top 10, they're going to start taking wing off the car the next time they hit pit lane.
Well, you could take wing off the car, however it's going to be more difficult to get around other people there, Cisco.
Yeah, it is, and if Holgate's trapped back in this field, he's not going to make that much time up on pit road with the amount of fuel. Sure, he'll make up maybe a little bit because he doesn't have to take as much, but it's not, how far back is he now? It's not going to make up that much. 4.5 seconds. He's not going to make that up on pit road, so he can't take Arrow out, and as a result, he's just in a catch-22 situation. He just can't do anything.
He needs a yellow.
Also important to note, it takes time for the aero adjustments as well. Because talking about these cars, when you make the adjustments, you never want to just adjust too far one end. If you take front wing out, you want to take some rear wing out as well to maintain the balance. Same if you're add downforce. You don't want to just slam a bunch of front wing on that car, because then it's going to be scary loose. And it takes time, most notably, Will, with the rear wing to do that. And that's just going to offset Tim Holgate's fuel advantage.
Yeah. Unless he's expecting all the other drivers to do aero adjustments on this next fuel run, and he doesn't do any to work himself back up through the field. Yellow comes out. This strategy is still very wide open, in my opinion. Even if it's a circumstance where we're going to end up with a green flag run. And let's not forget, it's only 10 laps now until your front field are going to come on towards pit road, Cisco. So this isn't an open and shut case yet. It just isn't in the favour of Holgate at the moment. Let's check in with Bradley Walters, by the way. P number 15. He's right behind the Tim Holgate train right now.
Yeah, and for Walters, I mean, remember, he came in topped off. So, I mean, he was in a position where he's up a couple more positions, but he's just at the back of this field here, or that pack, rather. So, I don't like the strategy right now, Will, but like you said, he probably won't trim out here for the rest of this race. So, will he be in a better position if we get a late yellow or something like that where he can race through the field? He probably, but he has to race through 12 cars to do it.
We talk about drivers wanting yellow, and of course it's always a weird thing here at Indianapolis, but sometimes drivers do bank on a yellow, and I think that's the case of what's happening for a couple of drivers right now. Top 8 then down at the bottom of your screen. Christopher Demerit leads away once again. Brandon Trost in second, Jeff Drake in third, Kevin Ellis Jr. in fourth, Austin Espity, Josh Chin, Marcus Jensen, and Josh Cooper rounding out your top 8. Worth noting, 2 Apex Racing UK machines inside your top 8 right now, Randy. They are the best represented team.
Yeah, the Apex guys are putting on a fantastic run right now. Both Kevin Ellis as well as the second one with Marcus Jensen. They have been absolutely perfect all race long. They haven't pushed themselves too hard. They've been aggressive and they've been fast, but they've been smart, and for that reason they find themselves both in the top 7 with 70 laps to go at Indy. But who should be surprised, because an Apex driver has won this race before. That was Cam Stark.
On board of Marcus Jensen actually right now in that number 30 machine, and he's one of those drivers, so Cisco. He can close up to the rear of Joshua Chin. Just can't seem to find a way past just yet.
He can, and that's either him trying to fuel save a little bit, or he's just not getting the runs where he wants them. You got to make sure you get it kind of coming out of the corner just the right way so you're able to make that pass. But I think Jensen just fuel saving right now.
As we are now way past 2/3 distance in this motor race. So, having a look back towards the front of your field, Demerit, Trost, Drake all came on towards pit road the same lap, of course, under yellow. They're all pretty much the same in terms of their in-laps and out-laps previously. I would actually have to give Demerit the advantage on that one if it is going to be a green flag run, Randy.
I think it's really hard to say, because if it does stay green, you also have to think that all these guys in the draft, you think of Trost, you think of Drake, Ellis, Espity, Chin, Jensen, they're all going to be saving in the draft right now. So even if it does stay green, even if Demerit's a little bit quicker, he might have the slightly longer pit stops, or he may even have to come down a full lap or so earlier. I think Demerit's definitely good, but it's definitely hard to say, I think, right now.
Yep. As there you can see along the top of your screen, some of the retirees from this event today, of course. One driver didn't take the start, and that was the driver of Tim Doyle, the 2011 winner of the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Marcus Jensen, we're on board with him right now again versus Joshua Chim in towards turn number 1. Yeah, he's lifting off the noisy pedal, actually. I'll give you that one, Cisco. He is lifting off the noisy pedal quite a lot down these straightaways.
And look at how much time, well, Espity was kind of falling back a little bit, but all these guys, I'm assuming, now in that fuel save mode. So now we can chill for a bit, and these guys waiting until the final storm of that last 20 laps or so, last 30, 20 laps, when it's just going to go out the window and these guys are going to go all out to try and win this thing.
Go slowly to go quickly.
Bingo.
And you know what? Sometimes there are some drivers that don't always understand that message, but it's one of those situations right now. Go slowly to go quickly at the end. As your second pack, you've got yourself Tim Holgate, Brandon Lichtenberg, Bradley Walters, Zach Winkley, and Martin Miller in that pack. Randy Crosno still tugging along the laps here. P number 17, of course, involved in that incident early on. He's one of those drivers here, Cisco, that basically has just decided, get me to lap number 185, and then I'll start racing.
Exactly. I bet that's the mindset for a lot of these guys out here. They're just thinking, I mean, we saw Demerit, and I wonder if that was a little bit of testing for what these guys are going to be able to do once that last bit of racing comes. You know, Demerit, Trost, Drake, all those guys trying out their moves. I fear Drake might have showed his cards a little bit early, because he's so far been the only one who's had something for Demerit at the line. But everyone else, for the most part, probably just testing their stuff, seeing how well can I fight up here. And so they know when this race comes to the end of it, because these guys have been single file for a while. So you want to make sure you test that pack racing setup and how your car's handling. Because at the end of the day, you got to trust your car that when it's that white flag and you go down to turn 1, you don't want to hit that grass.
You know what impresses me, Will, about Randy Crosno? The fact that he's able to drive this car at 220 miles an hour with a handicap placard dangling off the rearview mirror.
And a Coors Light can as well, don't forget that.
Yes, don't forget that.
As pit road is going to be open about now, really, for these drivers. But they're on the 29th lap of a run. Of course, there's been 2 yellows in between them coming out of pit road. So realistically, 2 to 3 laps, they'll be on the lane here, Andy. And actually, be a good time to see who's been using fuel mode 8 and who hasn't been.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tight. We went green somewhere around lap 109, currently working lap 137. And important to note, we had that caution in the middle. I think you're going to see people get to about 141, 142, and by my calculations, Will, I think you're going to want to hit 142. Without saving, you can do 29 laps of gas, 29 laps on a tank of gas. To get yourself to 142, you can make it to the end without saving.
Here we are then, lap number 138 of 200 here at the 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. Christopher Demerit then leads away. Of course, Demerit wins, Broken Arrow would have won their second Indianapolis 500 as well. So we've got Apex and Broken Arrow going for a team second Indianapolis 500. Actually, we're going to go, no, because Pavelski won. Actually, Broken Arrow is going for their third Indianapolis 500 win here, Randy.
I mean, those Broken Arrow guys are just so good. I mean, they have a lot of talented drivers. You think Demerit, you think Treno, you think Pavelski, and a lot of those guys are not just good in the Indy car.
Don't forget Ryan Norton, otherwise I'm going to get into so much trouble.
Well, Ryan doesn't really race so much. He works on dragsters these days because his kid does the junior dragster. Yep. But I mean, Norton's really good too. Of course, one of the we'll say one of the OGs of the IndyCar community. I mean, there's a lot of experienced guys on that Broken Arrow team. A lot of fast guys. A lot of talented guys. Not really a surprise that they end up running it near the front at the biggest race of the year, quickly approaching lap number 140. About 3 laps or so we estimate to the safe point for the fuel number.
Yep. and it'll be very interesting to see whether they can make that one, or if they'll be doing a little bit of fuel saving on the end of this stint and the end of the next stint as well. And for Broken Arrow, of course, they won in 2013, Brody Kostecki in this event, Matt Pavelski in 2016. Christopher Demerit for Broken Arrow is leading the way right now. So Broken Arrow then looking to be the first team to win 3 iRacing Indianapolis 500s. Apex Racing UK, they've got Kevin Ellis Jr. currently running himself in the 4th place. They are looking to win their 2nd iRacing Indianapolis 500. The driver of Tim Holgate is the only driver in the field right now who could win his 2nd as a driver, but he's currently falling off the pace. He's in P number 11, as we have got pit stops then beginning to happen. You've got Randy Krosno and Yalvar Derry there on pit road as we speak, but that means leaders should be on pit road this time by. We're going to ride on board with Christopher Demerit. It'll be interesting actually. If Demerit comes on towards pit road and no one else does, then Demerit might actually be struggling a little bit for fuel. We'll find out as they exit turn number 4. Christopher Demerit will stay out and do it. No, he'll come on towards pit road. Brandon Trost is going to come with him. 3 drivers stay out, but half the field on towards pit road here, Cisco.
Yeah, and Demerit had an excellent pit road entry, but Trost had one that's even better. You see him right on the gearbox right there, the Broken Arrow machine. They're going to look to find their pit stalls. Meanwhile, Holgate does stay out here, so for right now, Holgate's going to have the lead while he has to wait like another 8 laps or so before he has to pit. But Demerit into the box here, and up go the auto jacks here. We're waiting to see, will he lose out the position at all? We've seen him lose positions on pit road. Cars coming out behind him. Survey says he's going to leave. No, he's going to be fine. And Trost is going to lose a ton of time.
And here come the rest of your leaders. Actually, no, Skrupa goes again. And that's a big advantage for fuel if he can go around another time. But talking about that, Will, your 2 Apex drivers coming down onto the lane, Jeff Drake, they both hit that 142 mark.
Yeah, and this is now very interesting, Josh Skrupa. And from here on in, every lap of fuel you save is time that you gain at the end of the motor race, because you have to spend less time on your final stop. And for Josh Skrupa, he also gets a little bit of draft to play with as well, as you got more drivers on pit road. This is Jeff Drake then. He's making himself that service. Out and away he goes in a time of 10.2 seconds. Now, let's see where Drake comes out in comparison to the driver of Christopher Demerit, because Demerit was able to get a nice little jump over the driver of Brandon Trost a moment ago, Jeff Drake, as he exits the pit road. Well, there is the driver of Demerit pass. What about Brandon Trost? Nowhere near. In towards turn number 3 and 4. So the order has been restored for the time being, as Esparti moves himself past Brandon Trost very close through turn number 3 there, Cisco.
Yeah, it got very close right there. The only guy we're waiting to see what happens is going to be Skrupa here when he leaves pit road. But the battle continues between Esparti and Trost as far as to the gearbox as he can get. So I guess he's in fuel saving mode, although very aggressive. And meanwhile, Skrupa, oh, he's not even going to be in the conversation for that top group.
No, he had a slower pit run there, 35.6 seconds. I'm not quite sure actually why it was so slow. His entry towards pit road must have been very slow. He actually comes out behind Joshua Chim, and that is the thing now. You've had yourself a number of pit stops, some under yellow, some under green here, Randy. It's getting on towards pit road that is so important. If you're Tim Holgate, you want a yellow now.
Yeah, you really do. Well, actually, I don't know actually about that, Will. Thinking about that, because let's say a yellow comes out. If you're Tim Holgate, you come down and you pit. Those guys that just came off of pit road, they're going to stay out for sure. So if a yellow comes out now, that could be disaster for Holgate.
Yeah, but only fall back down. I mean, there's not many, 19 drivers on the lead lap right now, and the number of drivers are going to pit. 7 drivers, you know, he'd only come out P13. He wouldn't actually lose anything, so to say. I would argue if you're Tim Holgate, you still would want a caution kind of around now, or in about 7-8 laps time once everyone's come through, just to close that field up a little bit. But for Tim Holgate, he is now on the back foot as we are coming down towards the final quarter of this 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. Of course, our next special event here on Racesport TV and on iRacing Live will be the iRacing 24 Hours
Holgate's
of
on the
Le
pits.
Mans, as Holgate's on pit road. So you can join us for our next special event here on Racesport TV. That will be the iRacing 24 Hours of Le Mans. That will be in 3 weeks' time here on Racesport TV. Streaming live, of course, on iRacing Live. So, Holgate is on pit road. He actually comes in a little bit earlier than all the other drivers who's on the same strategy. So Holgate, 9.6 seconds, out and away he goes.
The leaders already went past him, so well,
that was expected. I think he's just trying to get himself back on the same cycle as them. Thing is, where is he going to actually come out in regards to that? Because actually the important thing here, Will, he now just is able to take a pit stop without you losing a lap.
Yes. He comes out in provisional P number 17. Rick Music is just out of draft range. And what Holgate really needed was be a little bit closer to Music and then try and pick off the drivers one at a time.
Michael Chin spin off of 4. This is near the entry to pit lane. Michael Chin, issues coming off of 4, getting to pit road. He's getting just off the racing surface. We're going to stay green.
We do stay green now, and that is very lucky for some drivers, really bad for others who are just hoping that the spotters would say the words yellow, yellow, yellow. But let's have a look then. Let's find Michael Chin. There he is. And let's just show you what happened to him on board through turn number 4, coming on towards pit road. Back end steps out. He actually smacks the wall, and actually he was on the track, but there's no one around to force that yellow. And Randy, Holgate is just going to have his head in his hands right now.
That would have been fantastic for Holgate, especially after that pit stop, because then Holgate would have been in a situation where he just coming off a pit road and basically all those drivers in front of him were surely going to come down pit road. Holgate would have been your race leader had the yellow gotten thrown there. I'm not quite sure why it didn't, because I agree, Chin was up on the racing surface. Holgate, though, I think he may have just scraped the wall off of 2, not hard. That 10 machine is pushing, and I'd be very surprised if Holgate hasn't trimmed a little bit of arrow at that last stop.
Yeah, that is Josh Gruper versus the driver of Joshua Chin right now for P6 on track. Scooper looking down to the inside. He tried to do it in towards turn 3, couldn't do so. Tried to do it in towards turn number 1, Cisco can't do so.
Now, Scrupa just doesn't seem like he's very happy with the car right now. He got a very good run on Chin, but the problem was he got it and then went too early. He made the run too early. He didn't have the run sustain all the way down the straightaway there, and as a result, Chin was able to do a fantastic blocking maneuver and defensive maneuver, so he was able to hold him off. So Scrupa now falling back, but remember, he stayed out a couple extra laps versus the rest of these guys, but he's really at the back of this field, running 7th right now, not really in a position to do much.
Yep, so let's reset it for you then with 50 laps of this mud race to go as Racebot Cat decides that she wants to destroy another one of my jackets. Thank you, Racebot Cat. Christopher Demerit then leads this mud race, and it's a 4-car train at the front of your field. It's Christopher Demerit, Brandon Truish, Jeff Drake, and Austin Espartee. These 4 drivers have been in the mix pretty much all race long inside your top 10. They haven't faltered. Brandon Truish technically is your biggest mover, moving up from outside your top 10 into your top 5 with ease. Kevin Ellis Jr. runs in P number 5. He leads a 3-car train right now with Joshua Chin and Josh Scruper for P5 for P number 7. Behind that, you've got Marcus Jensen, Liam Quinn, Ayal Valverde, Rick Music in a 4-car pack as they are P number 8 through 11. Then Tim Holgate is in P12. He runs in no man's land. Bradley Walters doing exactly the same. Zach Greinke and Brandon Lichtenberg doing similar things. And, well, hindsight's always 20/20 in this circumstance here, Cisco. And for the driver of Tim Holgate, hindsight really is 20/20 for him right now.
No, it is, because he's basically in a lose-lose situation right now. He's in the middle of nowhere with no draft help. He's slowly maybe inching towards Music. He's really not, though. So Holgate, I think, is kicking himself. I mean, he gave up. He was in the top pack. He had a shot to win this thing. And unless something happens, that shot went out the window, and Tim Holgate's going to wind up maybe outside even the top 10, which would be a crushing loss after his run in Indy Elite.
Yeah, indeed so. 1.6 seconds is the gap between Tim Holgate and Rick Music just ahead of him. We have been green for a while here, and long green flag runs have always been that kind of interesting scenario of these iRacing Indianapolis 500s, pitting under green. And well, Randy, we didn't really show this one in our pre-race show, but getting on towards pit road, it looks easy. The cones are further down than if you're running a NASCAR here, but still, that back end of the car is so squirty when you do try and slow down from 220 miles an hour down to 60.
Yeah, the way you set up these cars for the oval trim, it's very difficult getting them down to pit lane speed. I will say one of the things that's nice about this track compared to a lot of ovals, Will, you don't really drop off the apron here. The entire front straightaway is pretty much flat. There really isn't a transition at all to speak of, so because of that, that doesn't really upset the car. But the one thing you do need to be careful of, your in-car settings. What's your weight jacker at? What are your bars at when you come down onto pit lane? Very, very easy to have a bit of weight jacker cranked into that car, Will, get to the pit road, get on the brakes, and have that back end just kick right and throw you into the wall.
Oh yeah, and we've seen one or two drivers have issues on pit road, of course, here today. And the second incident is, of course, when you actually go from the asphalt kind of pit road itself in towards the pit boxes, and it's so slippery there. And often what you'll see at Indy, well, as soon as they get their pit stall assigned, Cisco, they are laying rubber down every time they come off of pit road and onto pit road, because they want to make it as grippy as possible.
Absolutely. You can see the tire marks on pit road already from the couple of incidents. I mean, we've seen 3-4 wide on pit road here. So, I mean, these guys definitely been very aggressive on pit road, but we're coming up to, well, we call it the money stop, because this is the one you have to get right, Will. And if Tim Holgate was in this pack, you know, he's a guy we've seen miss his pit box a couple times. And Christopher Demerit's he's been decent on pit road, but we've saw him lose a couple. We've seen him lose the lead rather on pit road a couple times, so you have to go through your mind, this has to be the best pit stop you make arguably this year.
Well, Joshua Chin has been the fastest driver in recent laps. Brandon Trosto down to the inside for the race lead over Christopher Demerit. So Brandon Trosto all of a sudden wants to lead this motor race, Cisco.
He does, and interesting strategy from Trost. Maybe he hit that fuel number, decided, all right, time to go build that gap. So I would assume that's the game plan for the 14. Demerit gonna come to the gearbox, not going to be able to do anything with him right here. So I'll have to see, does Demerit go on the offensive? Is he at that fuel number, or is he going to save now?
As we're just cycling through your field there, showing you some of the battles that are going on inside of your top 20. We have still got, by the way, 18 drivers on the lead lap, Randy, and that's a good thing to see. Of course, it will narrow the strategy opportunities in the last 45 laps of this motor race, because with 18 drivers on the lead lap, you can't do what Tim Holgate tried to do earlier on and play the strategy gamble, because you will lose too many positions.
Yeah, this field has been really, really competitive. You say 18 cars left on the lead lap. The gap between them and the next car that's a lap down is Henry Bennett, or the last car on the lead lap, I'll say. I mean, that's half a lap roughly, and then Randy Crawlno is about 12 seconds ahead of him. So really, the top 17 separated by 16 seconds. Basically a car every single second on the racetrack, except it doesn't quite work out that way, what with our 4-car pack up front. Strategy decision is going to be intense, I think, at this final stop, with the field being so critical. And actually, talking about pit stops, Will, it's easy to drop 1 or 2 seconds here. Let's say you're Marcus Jensen running in 8th, you drop 3 seconds on the pit lane, you drop back to 12th at Tim Holgate.
Yeah, so this pit stop coming up in about 11 laps time is going to be critically important for these drivers. There is Tim Holgate. He has, by the way, closed up that gap to Rick Music a little bit. Not enough, realistically. It's just under a second. He needs 0.3 of a second more, and then he'll get the draft. And that draft will help him so much here, Cisco. As Music going side by side with Alfa Verde, that's actually really now going to help Tim Holgate.
Yeah, and if Holgate can sniff even a little bit of draft between those two, they're already single file now, but I think it was enough for Holgate to get in range.
Yes.
Yes, I do believe so. So he's going to be in draft range now, so that's going to allow him, Will, to tag onto those guys, depending on how he has the car trimmed out. It may not It may not win him the race, but if it can get him at least into the top 10, he might be able to salvage something out of this race.
He's 9 seconds behind the race leader with 40 laps to go here. We have seen crazier things happen, but I'd still say that Holgate needs a caution here, Cisco.
Oh, yeah, easily. He needs a caution. He's too far back right now to do anything under green flag. He'd need a caution, and dare I'd say he needs something probably to happen to guys in the top 10 before he had a realistic shot at winning this. I mean, we've seen Tim Holgate drive the wheels off a car before, but as it sits right now, even if he gets to maybe 10th, I don't think he's going to be able to get through the field in enough time.
No. Brandon Trost versus Christopher Demerit. They are on lap number 19 of their run right now, Randy, and that means 10 laps to go till pit stop time.
Yeah, it's tight. 9-10 or so laps to go. Demerit's working lap 162. What we're looking for is how close can they get to the number 29. 29 is a for sure thing. You can stretch 30. It depends a lot on the setup, depends a lot on the driver. You might have to save to get there, though. There's going to be a big advantage based on who comes down on lap number 70 compared to 169, who comes down on 171 compared to 170. Caution out there on the racetrack, and we're 8 laps short of the mark.
Well, this will help 1 or 2 drivers big time, and I'm trying to work out who it is. I think it might be in the driver of, no, it's not Michael Chim. We got an update, anyone? Oh, it's Yao Valverde there in the number 32 machine, and it's a single car
that was right
incident.
Next to Holgate.
It was, as we're going to ride on board of him through turn number 1. Holgate just making the way past, and then Valverde pushed up into the wall in turn number 1.
Hello, turn 1, my old friend.
In Tim Holgate's case, literally, because he's now just been gifted an opportunity. If you are Holgate, you must come on towards pit road this time by, because everyone else is going to come in. But now, this is where the roles reverse go, because those drivers, Tim Holgate, Bradley Walters, et al., they have got themselves 6 laps less fuel to put into the car, and that would equate in my head to about a second and a half. Perfect. They need to bunch this field up as much as they can, and then basically as soon as they get towards pit road, they've got to not slide through their pit box. If you're Walters or you're Holgate and you slide through your pit box, game over right now. But everyone is short. Let's not forget that. Everyone is short.
Oh boy, so I'm sure all the crew chiefs, everyone up in the boxes for these guys, they've all got the calculators out wondering, yeah, I'm sure even the drivers have it brought up, the calculator. How long do I have to go?
Apex stays out.
Okay, so some people stay out. That is Kevin Ellis Jr., Marcus Jensen, Liam Quinn. They all stay out. Tim Holgate stays out as well. This is on the assumption that everyone's going to have to make one more pit stop here. It's a very, very bold move here, but a few of your drivers have decided to stay out. They are Kevin Ellis Jr., Marcus Jensen, Liam Quinn, Tim Holgate, and Zach Rinke right now. Brandon Trost, the first of your drivers, then Alpha Pit Road, Christopher Demerit, Jeff Drake, then Austin Espenty, then Josh Chin. So actually Trost, again, the fastest on pit road, Randy.
Well done by Trost. He's been absolutely flawless on pit road all day today. The thing I'm thinking, though, Will, those drivers that came down pit lane, hopefully they noticed the number of cars that decided to stay out, because they have 4 cars that they're going to be, 5 cars that's going to be starting behind. That means that if they trimmed out at this stop, which, let's be honest, this is going to be the point where you want to take as much of the air off the car as you can, last full stop of the race. If they trimmed out, they're going to be struggling with the dirty air.
Yeah, indeed so. So we're going to have ourselves then a restart with just under 35 laps to go here on RaceSpot TV. Back with more in just 1 second.
Watch Ernie, go, go, go. Car right, car right, car right, car right. Watch, jam it. Get ready. Dude, more heads up in that. Jeez.
Right on the back wing. Can he make it happen?
Push like hell. We gotta stay in front of these guys.
Both drivers on the push to pass. Contact in the pit lane.
Alright, sexy. Let that eagle fly. What do I do? start. Let's go get this guy. Car outside. Through behind you. No. Clear outside. Good job. Just spun behind you. I don't know if you got him or not.
He got out of it so hard. Look at these guys are all over the back.
Full throttle.
IndyCar.
He hit an outlap.
What's next?
Come and get the checkers, big boy. Oh, baby, that was good. He hit me. Inside, outside.
2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. See what's next.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies for coming a little bit late back from that commercial, but 35 laps to go out the line. Drivers that stayed out: Kevin Ellis Jr., Marcus Jensen, Liam Quinn, Tim Holgate, and Zach Rinke. First of the drive, in fact, Henry Bennett as well. Brandon Trost, the first of the drivers to have pitted. 35 laps to go. Cisco, it now gets interesting.
Oh yeah, and Randy and I were discussing it over the commercial break between who we think this really works for and who maybe it'll be decent for. I mean, Kevin Ellis, he's in a situation he was up front, so he's taking this gamble. But Marcus Jensen, who's kind of in the back, this really benefits him. So it's going to be a question of if these guys get a caution, they should be okay because everyone's going to pit again. But if the caution doesn't come out, these guys might be doomed.
Everyone must pit one more time, or we go into ultra fuel save mode. Pace car on towards pit road. Green flag. You want to keep an eye out on that mid-pack because they're all going to jostle for position right now. Brandon Trost, Jeff Drake trying to work themselves around Henry Bennett. Christopher Demerit does so. Brandon Trost does so. And now they work themselves forward. Or at least try and get in the draft. This is that topsy-turvy part of the motor race right now where you cannot put a foot wrong. Tim Holgate right behind Marcus Jensen. Jensen leads the lap, or will he? The answer is going to be no, because Holgate will move himself down to the inside to the race lead with 34 laps to go, Cisco.
And Holgate just made an apex sandwich for himself. That was pretty easy right there. Shot between the two drivers, and he's out on his own. So now Holgate, the question is, what's the strategy call? What's he going to do once he gets here? Is he going to try and build that lead, or is he just going to pray for a caution? Because at this point, Holgate probably needs one if he stands any chance at surviving the end of this.
I would argue that he needs to go like there's no tomorrow, because the interesting thing to note, Christopher Demerit and Brandon Trost are currently 1 second behind Liam Quinn. That 1 second, Randy, is very important to the strategy of Demerit to Trost, because they can't now go into ultra fuel save mode just yet.
No, they can't, and that's really disaster for them. And the question is going to be, who's going to go into that ultra fuel save mode? I have to say, someone of the leading pack has to have been have to have shifted to that sort of mindset. Thinking about Alexander Rossi from last year in the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500. Someone I think is likely going to try to make that work. Who's it going to be? Because if we stay green, whoever pushes now and decides now that I'm going to save fuel and make it to the end, I think they win your motor race.
Well, it's interesting because Liam Quinn is falling back from Marcus Jensen. Ellis Jr. going side by side with Tim Holgate, but we're keeping an eye out on this gap. It's currently 1 second and a little bit. Demerit then, they did actually close the first part of that last lap, but then Liam Quinn got the draft back and was able to get himself a bit more of an advantage. I think Liam Quinn is going to be the most important driver to pay attention to right now. Even though he might not win this motor race, because it doesn't look as if he's got the pace of the top three drivers here, he will be important because he may well, Cisco, allow Demerit to come back into the fight, and that is the most important thing.
Yeah, as far as Demerit, Trost, the rest of these guys is concerned, Demerit basically needs Liam Quinn to wait for him, or else Demerit's going to be in big time trouble because Trost is sitting behind saving, as is Chin, as is Espity. They're all just sitting behind him at this point, probably saving. So Demerit's going, I need that draft. I need that draft. Everyone else can sit behind him and save. So Demerit kind of, once again, he's now in the catch-22 situation.
Jeff Drake versus the driver of Zach Rinke. Through turn number 3 and 4. Drake upper position. Holgate versus Ellis Jr. Ellis Jr. leads the way here. Interesting fact as Holgate then go down to the inside. He will take the race lead away. Tim Holgate, lap number 24 of his fuel run. Kevin Ellis Jr., lap number 28. Marcus Jensen, lap number 29. Liam Quinn, lap number 30. Randy, Holgate is going to be in a very lonely place in about 2-3 laps time, but he has got some advantage now because everyone else still should have to come on towards pit road. For Holgate, this will be his last time in. Everyone's got to pit. And the thing is, Holgate needs to build up. In my back of my head, I just did the maths. 7 seconds is what Holgate needs.
And we'll see what it is once he gets to the line compared a lot to the other drivers as he gives the spot to Ellis Jr. as they go into one. Interesting to note, both Apex drivers stay out. Amongst everyone in your league group, they stay out. So everyone's in fuel save mode. But right now, Tim Holgate, 2-second lead over Demerit and Trost. He needs to find 5 seconds, Will, and I don't think he's going to do that.
Well, pit stops will be the important part. You can maybe gain half a second there. He will be towards the end of a fuel run, of course. Demerit and Brandon Trost, they cannot afford to basically beat each other up here. They've got to work together here, Cisco, if they want, as Ellis Jr. is on towards pit road. But these two drivers, Demerit and Trost, have to work together, and they've got to be friendly enemies for the moment.
Yeah, they have to. We're gonna pull out the Waltripisms early here, but
we're
gonna have some co-opetition. Bingo, exactly what these guys need to do right now. It's not Daytona or Talladega, but that's the aero package. These guys have to work together. They have to save that fuel. They have to be best friends here if they both want to be able to be up front at the end of this thing.
Marcus Jensen in second place. Tim Holgate in first right now. The gap between Demerit and Holgate is static at 1.92 seconds, and here then comes Marcus Jensen onto pit road. This will be his final pit stop of the day, and this is a very important pit stop for him, as it's been for other drivers who are on this strategy as well. Jensen then in towards his pit box. We'll give you an update on his time in a moment. Tim Holgate now leads his way by 1.2 seconds. He has got more fuel than Liam Quinn, etc. So what he actually wants is Liam Quinn's coming towards pit road this time by, because Demerit has just got into draft range here, Randy.
That he has, and because of that, Demerit's going to start picking up some pace. Then again, that could be disaster. Never mind, Liam Quinn comes down onto pit lane, because I'm going to be thinking, Will, I think these guys likely would have been trimming that car out when they came down pit lane at that last yellow. And someone who's come up near the top 3, Will, essentially honorably, look at Joshua Chin. He's been running 6th, running 7th all day. We get now in the last 25 laps of this motor race, that one machine is basically in a podium spot, we think, right now. Because here's the other thing to keep in mind, Will. Holgate's going to need to come down pit lane. He's going to need about 20 or so laps of gas. Everyone else behind, Demerit, Trost, Chin, even if they can't make it, they're just going to need a splash about 5 to 6. They're going to have a much shorter stop.
That's where the 7 seconds comes from. For those of you wondering what my logic is on these things, that is where...
Well, no, Holgate would have a longer stop.
No, but that's where the 7 seconds overall lead he needs to build up comes from.
Right.
Is what I mean. But Joshua Chin, he has had heartbreak at Indianapolis before, here on the grandest stage of them all. Can Joshua Chin get redemption then in the last few laps of this motor race? 25 laps to go, and it is Tim Holgate leading. 4 laps, I suggest he'll be on pit road in 4 laps time here, Cisco. And that will mean, of course, every lap he can do now, between now and the end of the motor race, it will basically mean it won't be the fuel that'll be the limiting factor. It will be the tyres, as he's in. He's in. Okay, so this is interesting. He knows that the tyres are going to take X amount of time to put on. He's going to have to take fresh tyres anyway, so he's not losing any time by taking himself the fuel to go with it, Randy. Not bad thinking there by the driver of Tim Holgate, because he's going to lose X amount of time anyway.
Oh, there's a car on the wall in 1. Liam Quinn's in the wall.
And we are yellow.
Caution's out.
Oh, we're yellow. And Tim Holgate's overshot. We're going to stay with Tim Holgate for the moment. Strategy, window, throw it out. Because it's all changed here. It's all changed here. Tim Holgate comes out of pit road.
He has the lead.
No, he's the first driver.
Everyone's
No, he's 11th. No, I think everyone has to just stay on this strategy right now. If you're Demerit, if you're Troth, if you're Josh Chin, you are about 3 to 4 laps short. You get a yellow, you put it into engine map 8, you clutch and coast it around. I think if you're at the front right now, you have to risk this. This is the 2017 iRacing Indy 500. You don't pit for the safe strategy here. You have to risk this.
But Randy, I have to think, if you're Demerit, you get on the radio to Trost, who you've been trying to work with here, you say, look, if the 3 of us come down pit road, everyone else is going to follow. You have to go with Demerit. You have to go with Demerit.
No, that's the worst thing you can do to yourself as the race leader, saying, if I come down pit lane, everyone's going to follow me. The worst thing you can do is try to keep yourself on cycle. You have to think about this race from your own perspective. You don't have to think, what is everyone else going to do? You have to think, what do I have to do to get the win in this race? I think the right call right now is to stay out. They were only a few laps short from when the last caution happened. I think they can stretch this.
I'm going to say tyres might well be important. And if tyres are going to be important, then you might want to come on towards pit road. But we're going to find out now. Are we going to see dummies? We're going to see a lot of dummying. No one? Yes, Demerit's going to come on towards pit road. Trost will stay out. And this is what I mean by the dummying here. Some drivers will stay out, some drivers will come in. And now, business has really picked up here. Demerit's all alone, though.
Yeah. Will, I was about to say, thinking to last year, Brandon Treno, last pit stop of the race, he came down, got shuffled to the back, ended up losing an Indy 500. He dominated the entire way through. Did Chris Demerit just make the same mistake?
But he can run all out, Randy. These guys, I mean, you're saying you think they'll be able to save 3 or 4 laps, but can they?
Yeah, but you know who doesn't need to save? You know who doesn't need to save? Tim Holgate, Marcus Jensen, Kevin Ellis Jr., all those guys who just pit, they're good to go to the end. Demerit's behind them.
Yeah.
So you use Tim Holgate as the hot knife through butter, and it's not a hot knife through butter. It's literally a fire rod through butter right now. Because these other guys, they will. What I think will happen is you might see some drivers try and get the early advantage, get into draft range, pull away as much as they can, and then fuel save. We'll find out in a moment's time. We need to think about the strategy call. We'll be back in a second.
Introducing a whole new form of racing to the best online racing simulation in the world. This is Dirt Racing on iRacing.com. Race online at some of America's most legendary dirt tracks, including Eldora and Williams Grove. iRacing is the premier online racing game featuring NASCAR, IndyCar, sports cars, and now World of Outlaws, the leading sanctioning body for dirt racing. iRacing is easy to use and features a centralized ranking system to make sure you have the best experience at any skill level. With a massive inventory of high-precision laser scan tracks and cars with an unmatched dedication to quality and detail, iRacing gives you the most authentic online racing experience available. Thanks to iRacing's dynamic track system, developed specifically for dirt racing, tracks change over the course of a race, just like your favorite dirt track on a Friday or Saturday night. From a slick racing groove all the way up to the cushion, iRacing's dirt tracks deliver non-stop racing action. Partnered with the World of Outlaws, iRacing is your source for the most authentic dirt racing experience available, featuring 4 brand new tracks and 11 new cars, including street stocks, legends cars, late models, NASCAR trucks, winged and non-winged sprint cars, with much more on the way. Join the Dirt Revolution on iRacing.com and start slinging mud today.
Welcome back to Late Spot TV. Listen to the engine note, Brandon Trost. Lots of lifting, lots of coasting there, Cisco.
Yep, and that's all he can do now, Will. This is Prost. His bed is made now, Will. You're stuck with the strategy.
So, 20 laps to go. Just to let you know, no top split iRacing Indy 500 has ever finished under yellow. Brandon Trost, 20 laps to go. Taken back to 2015, the 16th Street Racing League Indy 500. Brandon Trost ran out of fuel, lap number 199. On the grandest stage in sim racing, is he going to potentially make the same mistake again, or has he got enough fuel to go to the end? Pace car in, Trost in command of the field. Wait as long as you can. Green flag, here we go. Look at the drivers all swarm across each other. It was almost as if you wanted to see another yellow there if you're one of the two of these drivers. But here they come then. Oh, big trouble. Yellow. Now they can make it to the end. Now they can make it to the end. In the back of my head there, Cisco, I was thinking, leaving the green flag till as late as you did, you run the risk of there being a big moment in towards turn number one. Holgate in towards turn number one, then Jensen gets loose, upside down and over. Jensen out of this event. Now put the map up as high as it will go and burn that fuel, Cisco.
Oh yeah, this is a race to the end, and what happened there, I think Jensen was trying to get behind Holgate on that inside line. He went down there, and I mean, all credit to Zach Ranke there on the bottom. He doesn't have anywhere else to go. He's on the grass at that point. He couldn't have given the 30 driver any more room than he did, and contact made there. So race and deal once again, but like you said, turn the map up to 1 now. Throw all that strategy out the window. This is a race to win.
And just to let you know, Tim Holgate P7, Martin Miller is all of a sudden in P number 6 here, Randy. That is worth thinking about.
We talked about that earlier in the show. I talked about Martin Miller, and I said Martin, even though Martin may not be one of the quickest drivers in the IndyCar, he's one of the smartest, and he knows how to get himself in position when he needs to be. Here, tail end of the race, we haven't seen him up front since the start of this race, Cisco, knocking on the top 5, and Martin's an expert at saving gas as well. It's going to be interesting, though. What can Tim Holgate do in dirty air? We haven't really seen him be successful the last handful of laps here. Christopher Demerit as well. We haven't seen him run in dirty air all race long. He's been in the top 3. What can those drivers do? Will they be able to get to the front and fight with Trost, Chin, Espity, and Drake as they fight for this race win?
I think they're certainly going to try, Randy. I mean, these guys, this is the Indy 500. Is Lichtenberg actually going to come down pit road here?
What?
So maybe, yeah.
Why? He just pits. Unless he's short.
No, he was actually better by a lap to Trost and everyone else. Unless he didn't take as much fuel, Randy.
He may have short fill, but why wouldn't you short fill if you're that close and you're going to end up in a, I don't know, this decision by Lichtenberg is confusing to me. And he's pretty much filling up too. That was a long stop. I'm not sure. Did he maybe get a black flag on the restart? No, because you can't
take that on yellow. Yeah. I'm not quite sure, but Lichtenberg then, Broken Arrow's chances of winning with Lichtenberg is over, but Broken Arrow's other chance for Christopher Demerit, now down in P number 10, and there is your field behind the iRacing first safety car. Brandon Trost, Joshua Chin, Austin Espity, Jeff Drake, Martin Miller, Tim Holgate, Kevin Leonard Jr., Zach Greinke, Henry Bennett, Christopher Demerit. Anyone brave enough to say that they know who's going to win this motor race yet?
A human being.
I'm not jinxing anyone. Don't look at me.
But thinking of this, Will, I have to think back to last year's 2016 Indy 500. I mentioned Demerit coming down pit lane similar to Trano. You talked about the fact that Josh Chin always has bad luck at Indy. Who did he have his bad luck with last year? He had his bad luck with Brandon Trost. They run 1-2.
Yeah. Any of these top 10 drivers are easily deserving winners of this the iRacing Indianapolis 500. I also have to say, this is the longest Indy 500 we've done since 2013 as well, in terms of yellow, Cisco. So, you know, in terms of the mental and physical fatigue, you know, yeah, they get to relax in the yellow, but, you know, these guys have been racing now for getting close to just over 3 hours.
And you have to keep in mind, Will, also the fact that these guys have been looking at fuel strategy. They've been worried about having to mess around with the wing or the weight jacker, all that sort of stuff. More than a lot of other different series on the surface. You have to do so much as a driver to keep that car competitive. It gets wearing, and for these guys, you know, you have to go fuel map 8. Okay, now it's a restart, back to fuel map 1. You know, back and forth, back and forth. But the thing is, we still have 15 laps to go here, 16 laps to go, and those guys are going to have to, I don't know, they're going to have to dig deep, Will, because like you said, 3 hours. Endurance is a big test here at Indy, and it's going to come down to who can make that move to win themselves the race, and who's going to make that move to maybe lose themselves this race.
Also, we got a slight update. Lichtenberg has a penalty. He wants to be at the back of the field when he serves it. That way he doesn't have to worry about essentially getting run over or traffic in front of him.
Also,
that's really good.
Worth thinking about the fact that some of these guys in your top 5, they've done 3 acceleration cycles, as I call it, Randy. That does impact the tires a little bit.
It does. It's not great. And coming especially to this restart, you're going to be 16 laps to go at the line. That's when you want your tires to be at your optimal. But this is going to be an insane sprint to the end.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Cisco, you ready?
Oh yeah.
Here we go then. Pace car in. Trost going early this time. Defensive line already. Green flag back in the air. Here we go. Side by side already. Holgate wanting to get past Martin Miller. He does so in towards turn number 1. Makes that move complete. But
Chin on the outside of Trost.
Here they go. 2 wide. Maybe going to go 3 wide down the back straight away. And it's going to be the driver of Joshua Chin, who moves himself to the race lead with 15 to go. Actually 16, 15 to go at the line here, Cisco.
And Espiti just got the job done in 3. He's now going to hold the lead, but Chin is going to have a run coming out of 4. He's going to look to the outside this time of Austin Espiti. Brandon Trost, meanwhile, does he make it 3 wide? He's got nowhere to go. And for Austin Espiti, he's going to hold on to this lead right now. And that is a lap led for the 9. He hasn't been up front all day.
He hasn't. Hot knife through butter. We talked about it earlier. Tim Holgate is now up into P number 4. And he's only half a second back. So draft mode engaged for the driver of Tim Holgate. 3 wide almost again at the front. It's Joshua Chin who leads away. Then Austin Espiti, Brandon Trost. Trost falls back into line as they work themselves now through turn number 4. And now it's going to be called defensive driving, Randy, from here to the end.
Has to be defensive and offensive, and Tim Holgate is there. Espiti, Trost, and Holgate look to the inside of Chin. Chin's going to lose 1 spot for sure. Does he drop one to Trost? No, Trost, I think, gets tied in the dirty air. Chin is able to get back in a line. Great for him, but now Holgate, has he been able to trim out the way he may have wanted to? Is he going to be quick at the right time? He's got to run on Trost now. They're going to be 3 wide almost for second. Chin, Trost, and Holgate as they go into 3. Espiti's clear with the lead into 3 for now.
Yep, so Holgate then moves up into 4th place, but it does look as though he took off a lot of wing there because he could not hold.
Trost.
And Trost is going to make contact with Joshua Chin. Chin hard into the wall. Yellow flag is out. Chin, it's bad luck. And Indy continues, Randy.
I go to Cisco on this one. I don't want to say something and be called biased, but I have to say I think Trost just dumped Chin right there.
Hi, Cisco.
I mean, Trost went to the inside. He saw the move, and I have to say, I saw it coming. The 1 got a little bit tight. He apexed very high out of 3. The 14 shot to the inside, but
I've just found the moment. And this is what happened then for Brandon Trost. And I'm going to stop it for you at a specific point through turn number 4. And that's here. You see, you always want to go as far down to that curb as you can, but never touch that curb. Because of that, you notice that he's got those left wheels on that curb, Cisco, that unbalanced that race car and then pushed him across the racetrack into Joshua Chin. And it was just too low there running for Brandon Trost.
And it's like hitting an oil patch, Will. As soon as you hit that curb, you're going straight in the outside wall. And unfortunately for Chin, the wall wasn't in the way, he was. And for Josh Chin, like you said, the bad luck continues. And we haven't seen a pass work in the short shoots today. We've only seen accidents or people having to get out of the throttle. And once again, that's what happened. And for Brandon Trost, I mean, he had second, but at what cost?
Joshua Chin out of the iRacing Indianapolis 500 again. And that is not the situation he wanted to be. And then again, Joshua Chin has run so well for the first 85% of the race on so many occasions, but he's had it go to the end. Now, this is one thing I said earlier on, Cisco. We've never had one of these races finish under yellow. But the way this race has been, you got to start thinking, I want to be leading the race in lap number 196. Just in case.
And I think the guy, I'm looking on the 14 right now to see what sort of damage he has. A little bit on the side pod there, but actually no, he might be fairly clean in terms of damage-wise. I was worried he might have wing damage. Not going to be the case, though. I still have to say, though, I think the guy who we have to watch out for is the 14. Or not the 14, the 10. Because, I mean, talk about a guy, he's charged through this field, Tim Holgate. We saw him making moves. He's going to have the run here. I don't think Espati's going to be able to hold the lead from the lead. And I think Holgate's going to be the guy who's going to be able to lay back, maybe get the huge run and try and take the lead here. And after that, if there's anyone who's going to defend the front position on the Indy 500 on iRacing, it's going to be Tim Holgate.
Kevin Ellis Jr. runs himself in 4th place right now in the Apex Racing UK machine. Actually, just having a look, is that damage to the front wing of that car? Or is it just a weird camera angle?
Of whose car?
Kevin Ellis Jr.
The left front is tweaked.
Yeah, I see scuffs on the left
There
front.
was someone in the comments I said, I think it may have been Fluke or it's Pash Gergis, probably hanging out with the Apex guys in TeamSpeak. Apparently they got a piece of it. They're not sure how it affected the car because they had to slow down.
You know those times when actually commentating a race, you almost want to say absolutely nothing because all the on-track action's going to do the talking. I think that's what we're going to have in the last 10 laps here, Cisco.
It absolutely is. I mean, this is crunch time now, Will. I mean, we keep turning up the intensity. Each of these yellow flags, less laps on the board, and, you know, you're running out of time to make that move. It's the Indy 500. This isn't a series thing, Will. This is one race. And you want to win this one race. And remember, keep in mind, Tim Holgate, the only driver in this field who has the possibility of winning 2 of these things. How much is that of a motivator?
You've got history, you've got your first, you've got destiny, you've got so many different things going on in these final laps of this motor race. And well, Martin Miller in P number 6, he didn't make much there out of this. But it is worth noting, of course, that Tim Holgate has got the freshest tyres of the bunch. That, well, could be important for this. So, here's the situation then. 190 laps scored complete in the 2017 iRacing Indianapolis 500. Austin Espati leads away from Brandon Trost. Tim Holgate in 3rd. Kevin Ellis Jr. in 4th. Jeff Drake, Martin Miller, Christopher Demeria, and Rick Music. Tim Holgate running in 3rd place has the chance to make history, being the first driver to ever win 2 iRacing Indianapolis 500. Only 2 drivers in the field had that opportunity, the other being Tim Doyle. Didn't start the motor race here today. Brandon Trost has come so close to winning Indianapolis 500s before, but he's never been in this situation on the grandest stage of all. Austin Espati is the driver who will bring the field back to the green flag in the number 9 Team Afterburn machine. Pace car on towards pit road, and let's let them rip. with 10 laps to go in the 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. Green flag in the air once again here, Randy.
It's a good start out near the front right now for Austin Espetit. Gets a good gap. Trost and Holgate, though, they're going to be fighting as they come off a 2 and down the back straightaway for sure. Holgate looking for clean air. That 10 machine likely trimmed out in a spin. Apex driver round 3, 4 cars involved. Martin Miller, big incident inside of 10 laps to go.
We go back to yellow. Let's get a replay. This is into turn number 2. And that was Jeff Drake involved with that. One of the Apex Racing UK machines, Martin Miller. So actually 2 teammates there when Jeff Drake and Martin Miller involved in that one. Down into turn number 2. That is a number 3 machine involved in that one as well. Kevin Ellis Jr. At one point, we thought he was odds-on favourite to win this motor race, Cisco. Now he's on pit road, gutted.
And you see Jeff Drake, when he went into turn 2, you saw the left front wheel chatter ever so slightly. He hit a little bit of a bump just below that white line, and that's all it took. The car started to head up the racetrack. It wasn't in the comfort zone, and Kevin Ellis, wrong place, wrong time. Game over for that Apex driver. And as for the 8 of Martin Miller, he had a potential to come out of nowhere and try and win this, and he ends up in the catch fence. Day is done for the 8.
Right, there's a replay then, on board with Jeff Drake. There, he just hits the bump, and that pushes him up a little bit on the racetrack. Nothing there Kevin Ellis Jr. could have done. Nowhere in the wrong for him. Jeff Drake wobbles and pushes that car up across the racetrack, and you should know after 191 laps worth of racing what's going to happen when you put your car down on that inside through turn number 2. And often we talk about turn number 1 being the difficult corner here, Cisco. It is turn 2 that honestly is the toughest corner around this racetrack because of that inside there between basically that white line and that curb. If you get it wrong, you end your race, but you also take someone else with you. And now we reset the field once again.
And Demerit finds himself 4th.
Yeah. He might have just gotten himself back into that with that caution, Will.
Yeah, he's really, really lucky, actually. Because we've only really now got ourselves 10 drivers on the lead lap. I mean, the crazy ones would say, well, who's going to come in and take some tyres? Randy Crosnow's just done that. He's in P number 11. You've also got yourself Henry Bennett on pit road as well, just in case. Tyres work out well here. But what's happened is that the tyre situation's now kind of been neutralised in some ways because of the fact they've been stop, start. You've still got to worry about the tyres at Espetit and Trosto. They've been through, 5 acceleration cycles here, Cisco? That's not good.
It's not good, but I have to think, if you're Brandon Trost, you're Austin Espetit, you don't care about the tires anymore. You don't care. They could put squares on the wheels and you'd still be trying to win this race, because for these guys, all that you have to think with the planning, we're going to come to the green flag here probably with about 5 laps to go, and that means you throw it all out the window, Will. You will drive as hard as you can push that car, and probably a little bit harder to try and win this, because as Evan would say, we're in the time of no return here. If the yellow comes out, this is over, Will.
Yeah. Basically, from the point that we go to green flag racing again, Randy, if a yellow comes out, the race is over.
I think there's like a 1 lap window, so yeah, you guys are basically spot on here. It's going to be rough. I don't want to see one end under yellow for sure. That'd be a disastrous train of green flag finishes to end. But at the same point, who's it going to be? 4th, 5th, and 6th just wrecked. And Demerit was running 7th at the time. He got bailed out. Jeff Drake is still out there with a little bit of front wing damage, but he's quick all day. Rick Music, Josh Skrupa, they've been in the mix at times. And then, of course, everyone in the top 2, Brandon Trost, Tim Holgate. This is going to be one heck of a run to the finish. Austin Espetit as well, of course.
Well, on fresher tyres, you've got to ask the question, do Holgate and Demerit try and work together, Cisco, to get past Espetit and Trost and then battle it out at the end? Or is it really now every man for themselves?
Oh, it's every man for themselves now, Will. It's the 500.
Okay. We've got ourselves to run through the retirees then. Martin Miller, Kevin Ellis Jr., Joshua Chin, Marcus Jensen were the most recent drivers out of the event. Liam Quinn, Yal Valverde, Michael Chin, Nars Anders, Jamie Fluke, Stefan Remedy, John Hayek Diggett, and Graham Bunyan out of the event, as well as numerous others. Tim Doyle did not start the motor race here today. When we go back to Green Flag Racing, there'll be 6 laps to go in the 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. And well, we've learned today that pretty much anything can happen, and anything can easily happen in the last 6 laps of this motor race. So we've been building and building and building to some form of a crescendo. That crescendo is going to have to be now, because someone's going to have to win this motor race. Some hearts are going to have to be broken. One driver is going to be able to drink the sweetest milk in sim racing, but only one of them can do so. Austin Espartee, number 9 machine, has never won an iRacing Indianapolis 500. Same with Brandon Trost. Same with Christopher Demerit. Tim Holgate has. Has he got the advantage having been in this situation before? Or do the other guys just want it just that little bit more here today? Pace car, pit road. 6 laps to go. And they start now. And Espartee gets a pretty good start there. Demerit was caught napping a little bit. In towards turn number 1 they come. High side, Tim Holgate, Brandon Trost through turn number 1. Still side by side, through turn number 2. Holgate can't complete the pass, and that allows Demerit to come on the attack. And you see Trost playing the ultra defensive line, but he's got to be careful now, because if he does that for too much longer, as they go 3 wide, and a bit of a bump there from Demerit. Demerit now side by side with Tim Holgate into turn number 3 here, Randy.
Brandon Trost is driving ultra defensive, and I have to say, the way Trost is driving, I honestly don't think he's going to win this race. He realizes he's put himself after that move with Josh that no one's going to give him an inch, no one's going to work with him, and because of that, he has to go ultra defensive. Holgate picks up the 2nd spot, and I think Trost is going to continue to fall here. If Demerit sees an open window, he's stepping through it.
A caution now will end this motor race. Austin Espartee, he's going to play the defensive card. Here comes Holgate looking to the outside. Turn number 3 and 4. Don't forget, slightly fresher tyres for Tim Holgate. The same will apply to the driver of Christopher Demerit. Round the outside will go Tim Holgate to the race lead. There's going to be now 10 miles worth of racing to go as well. Here we are then. Holgate leads, then Espartee, then Demerit as Espartee back down to the inside, in towards turn number 1, 3 wide, in towards turn number 1, Cisco.
Please, nobody make a mistake. But Demerit on the inside. He's going to come through turns 2 right now. A fantastic run out of nowhere for the 5. He got blocked by Espartee just 1 lap ago. Able to keep it moving. To the lead goes the 5. But now here comes the 9 of Espartee. He's going to jump on the inside. Into turn 3 goes the 9. And does he have enough to win this thing?
It's a case of pick a lane. I would argue that maybe Tim Holgate has trimmed that car out too much, because Brandon Trost now looks down to his inside on the exit of turn number 4, side by side. We know that Christopher Demerit has been the fastest driver to the stripe all day long, but he doesn't make it that time by. Espartee leads a lap at the line. There'll be 2 to go at the line. Demerit versus Espartee as they work themselves now through turn number 2. And well, Demerit all of a sudden is in the catbird seat, but here comes Holgate looking down to the inside as well. It looks as though coming down to 2 to go, we still got a 5-horse race here, Randy.
Inside of about 7 miles left to go, and Tim Holgate's going to pick up the 2nd spot from Austin Espartee. Brandon Trost shuffled to 4th, and he's just stayed there. He's been fighting as well with the 4 machine of Josh Scrupas. Trost's going to look to the ultra high line off of 4, not going to make it stick, and here goes Tim Holgate inside of 5 miles left to the inside of Chris Demerit. He's going to beat Demerit to the line as well. 2 to go, penultimate time into 1.
So here they are then, less than 5 miles to go, and Holgate back to the race lead. It does look as though it's a 2-horse race, as it's now going to be Trost versus Espartee going side by side. They are very close together as they now work themselves towards the north end of the racetrack once again. But Demerit is right now on the coattails of Tim Holgate. They work themselves to the white flag this time by. It's Holgate versus Demerit, arguably a 2-horse race now, because the drivers behind them have been squabbling for position. Demerit looking down to the inside as the white flag will come out. 1 more lap to go here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as Christopher Demerit has the race lead through turn number 1. He has the race lead through turn number 2. Can Tim Holgate do anything here as he gets himself a run through the back straightaway they come for the final time? And Holgate will look himself to the outside as Christopher Demerit goes ultra defensive there on the low side. It may well cost him because here comes Holgate. He has the outside line through the final corner for the final time. Once again, photo finish here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Holgate? It's going to be Christopher Demerit at the line, just costing Holgate a shot at immortality. Demerit wins his first and costs Holgate the chance of winning his second. Christopher Demerit will win the 2017 iRacing Indianapolis 500. Demerit, Broken Arrow will win their third iRacing Indianapolis 500. Christopher Demerit win his first, and Tim Holgate at the line loses out by inches here today. But inches means nothing, and Cisco, we always talked about it. If it came down to the run to the line all day long, Christopher Demerit has been the best driver towards a yard of bricks, and he does so with the race victory now as the Broken Arrow number 5 machine will slow it down for the donuts.
And Demerit, 19 one-thousandths of a second is the difference between Holgate and Demerit right there. And Demerit, I mean, he was unstoppable on the front stretch. The only one who even passed him that one time, that was Jeff Drake. He was out of this thing. Holgate did everything he could. He made the move. If the start-finish line was out of turn 4, Tim Holgate wins this race. If it was 100 feet before it was, Tim Holgate wins this race. Christopher Demerit timed it perfectly.
Christopher Demerit wins the 2017 iRacing Indianapolis 500. There are your final race results. 2/100ths of a second. The difference between winning and losing here today. But Christopher Demerit for Broken Arrow gets the run out of turn number 4. Tim Holgate, second place for him. He has to suffer the embarrassment, no, but the heartbreak, yes, of defeat. Brandon Truex in third place. He ends up just pipping Austin Espartee to the line. Bradley Walters claims P number 5, Zach Greinke in P6, Rick Music, Brandon Lichtenberg, Josh Gruper, and Jeff Drake. They round out your top 10. We then have a look back, and you see behind Henry Bennett, Randy Crosno are the two drivers that finished this motor race in P number 11 and P number 12. Kevin Ellis Jr. involved in that last caution along with Martin Miller, Joshua Chin out of this event. Marcus Jensen out. Liam Quinn et al. Also. It's been a high attrition day in the last 70 laps of the 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. But if your name is Christopher Demerit, you don't mind. You set the fastest lap of the motor race with 5 laps to go, and you claim the spoils of victory. We'll be back for post-race coverage after these messages. You're watching the 2017 iRacing Indianapolis 500 on RaceSpot TV.
Watch Ernie, go, go, go. Car right, car right, car right, car right. Watch him, watch him, watch him, watch him. Jam it! Get ready. Dude, more heads up than that. Jeez.
Right on the back wing. Can he make it happen?
Yes! Yes! Push like hell. We gotta stay in front of these guys.
Both drivers on the push to pass. Contact in the pit lane.
All right, 60. Let that eagle fly. What do I do? What happened? Push here. Push hard. Let's go get this guy. Car outside. Through behind you. Tell. Clear outside. Good job. Just spun behind you. I don't know if you got him or not.
He got out of it so hard. Look at these guys are all over the back.
Full throttle.
IndyCar.
The in and out lap.
What's next?
Come and get the checkers, big boy. Oh, baby, that was good. He hit me. Inside, inside, outside, inside, outside.
2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. See what's next.
The 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500 is in the books, and Christopher Demerit is your race winner by just 2/100ths of a second. It is Broken Arrow's third win on the grandest stage of sim racing after Brody Kostecki in 2013 and Matt Pavelski in 2016. Christopher Demerit, welcome to iRacing Indy 500 Victory Lane.
Yeah, it feels great. I pulled it off. There was a point where I thought my race was over and, just got caught up by cautions, but dug back in.
Talk us through, not the first 150 laps of the race, talk us through the last 50, because your pulse, your heart rate, your everything must have been through the roof numerous times.
Yeah, when I saw that I was pretty much the only one pitting on one of those cautions, my heart sunk a little bit because I realized it's going to be starting like, I don't know, P13 or P15 or something like that, and to get through 15 cars in 20 laps is a tall order, especially when the restarts get a little spread out. But then as the cautions kept going, I started to gain positions. Unfortunate for the people who wrecked, obviously. I want to see the race go green to the end, but fortunate for me to get back up.
You know what? We almost wrote you off until that final caution where all of a sudden you're back in P number 4. First of all, that wreck just ahead of you, how close were you to being involved in it? And then secondly, do you think that was the moment when you thought, actually, no, I can win this race?
That was definitely the moment when I was like, oh, I'm back in it, as long as we don't get another immediate yellow. I don't know how close I was. I haven't really looked back at it. I don't know if I want to. I think I had a decent amount of space, but I wasn't looking over my shoulder to see. I was trying to get cleared.
Well, then those last 12 and a half miles or so, actually 15 miles, let's be honest. You and Holgate ended up being able to make it a 2-horse race at the end. Do you think that helped you?
Yeah, there was on the going to the white flag, I saw that Austin was further behind, and I figured if I stayed behind Holgate until backstretch or front stretch, that would give Austin a good chance to actually get up to us. So I passed Holgate in the hopes that it would be half of a swap draft lap, and then the other half would be just us battling out, and hopefully Austin would be far enough back. I think it worked. I don't really know what would have happened otherwise, but it worked out, I guess.
And with this race win, of course, You are now a winner of one of the most prestigious events, not just in iRacing history, let's call it in sim racing esports, but also Broken Arrow now. They have won 3 of the last 5 iRacing Indianapolis 500s. Do you think that cements the legacy now of Broken Arrow as one of the best teams in IndyCar history on iRacing?
I think it definitely adds to the resume that our team has. Of course, there's always other drivers that are right up there with us, but I feel like this puts up us a notch in the order. I can't tell you an order off the top of my head, but yeah, definitely helps out.
Well, congratulations. We'll give you the floor. 2 things. Who do you want to thank, and what milk are you about to go and start drinking?
I'd like to thank everyone on Broken Arrow. They put together a great car this year, last year even, and rolled out this year, and it was still really good. Just tweaked a few things, not too much actually. So got to thank all of them. Shout out to Rensselaer Motorsport, who I have on my rear wing. Building race cars, pretty cool. A shout out to my family, friends, Holgate for having a great battle at the end there. I think that's everything on my list. Oh, milk. Gotta go see what we have. Didn't get there yet, but we'll see.
Well, off you go. Christopher Demerit wins the 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500, and the driver who, the most difficult interview I have to do every single year is a driver that comes home in 2nd place, Tim Holgate. I don't quite know what to say, but it was that close, 2/100ths of a second between you winning your 2nd iRacing Indianapolis 500 and us having this conversation.
Yeah, it's tough to lose it that close, Will, but being up there, battling within 2/100ths of getting another win with another great driver, having a great battle at the end, and putting on a great show. That I was ecstatic at the end of that. I'm really huge congrats to Chris for getting that win. They drove great all day. I had a really good run with a bunch of guys early on up front, and then we got kind of shuffled back when we made a bad strategy call, which turned out fell our way, and then became a great strategy call. So I mean, it's a little bittersweet, but it's much more sweet than bitter, because I would rather have an awesome race and come in 2nd than have a boring race and come in 5th, or sometimes if you have a boring race and you just dominate and win it, it's nowhere near as fun. So having it inches between us at the end there, that was I don't even mind finishing 2nd for this. So it was awesome. Great race for everyone.
Talk about that strategy call. Of course, we were scratching our heads for a long while. And with the green flag run we had in the middle of that race, it did seem to be that you were about to lose out. If the race had stayed green, do you think you would have been able to get back in, considering the fact the other drivers would have had to do a splash and dash and you were doing a full tank?
It was going to be interesting. I knew I was going to gain up spots on the pit stops. We're really good on our ins and outs, and I knew I was going to gain a 2nd here, a 2nd there. But we really did lose too much time. We had the restart was a little bit rough for us. Then we got separated, and then right when we were starting to get the draft, I think a car came in and started trying to swap with us and pulled us back a little bit, and then it broke the draft. And our car was built for the draft in the beginning of the race. I think they had like 9 seconds on me when I finally came in, and that was going to be an insurmountable task at the end. So the yellow really brought us back into it. I would say it was we should have done that strategy call and then trimmed out, but the expectation was that we were going to be battling back through the field and we needed the downforce. So it was a tough call. At the time I thought we needed to make a different move to try and get ourselves into a good spot, and in the end it worked out, and it made for a fantastic finish, that's for sure.
So next year, the 9th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500, you're going to come back and try and become the first driver to do 2 in a row? Well, 2 in a row, you know what I mean, 2 wins.
Two at all. I mean, that's what we keep coming back for, trying to get 2, 3, 4, 5. But there's some really good guys out there, some really good drivers. Those Broken Arrow guys are fast every time. They got some really fast drivers on that team, and they always come with a good car. And then there's some up and coming teams. I know Austin and a couple of the guys, Andrew, are all running good. And there's always a lot of competition here. So pretty much anybody who's got a good car and has a good driver behind it, they can come in and win it. And we've been lucky to have things fall our way in several of these races, so
Well, I almost know this one off by heart. I know you're going to thank Aboto, but who else do you want to thank apart from them for the 8th annual iRacing Indy 500?
Well, we've got a couple new sponsors on the car this year, so I want to thank Sam Maxwell Customs for putting together an awesome wheel that I've been using. It feels great. It's sturdy. It's got all the buttons I need on it for an Indy car. Want to thank Russell Hodgkins and Z Blue Software for the Z1 dashboard. That thing is fantastic. Also running them on the car this year. Obviously, like I said, Abodu, those guys are always keeping me comfortable here. Got to thank our team, Snake Pit Racing. We put together a great car, and they did great strategy for me today. Thank you guys for putting on the broadcast, and thank iRacing for putting on the race.
Well, thank you very much there, Tim Holgate, coming home second place here today. While Cisco, third place, Brandon Trost, who again, until 3 to go, was very, very close to winning this motor race.
Yeah, I've caught up with him down on pit road, and Brandon, well, you were really close there at the end. You were up there battling for it. But first thing we have to talk about is the contact that you had with Joshua Chin that caused the last yellow there. What happened?
I have one monitor. I don't have 3 like some of these guys. And Chin tried to pinch me entering the corner. And I overreacted to the pinch, hit the curbing, and slid up. I mean, there's nothing more to really say about that. You shouldn't be pinching that hard, in my opinion. However, I admit I shouldn't have hit the curb and slid up. So I feel like it's a racing deal.
So you come back to get the green flag, and you're going out there. We saw you driving very defensively. At that point, did you think you had a shot at it, or what was going through your head there once you took the restart?
Once Tim got up to 3rd or 4th, I knew I didn't really have a shot at the win. Unfortunately, I have a horrible setup. It's just terrible. So I was relying on using a ton of downforce to try and win. And strategy was stay behind Demerit the entire race, but unfortunately the way it played out, I wasn't able to do that.
Still, you come home 3rd, you are on the podium. I mean, it's not what you wanted, but at the end of the day, you still got 3rd. You happy?
I should be, considering how horrible the setup is, but I feel like if we'd stayed green and Holgate didn't get that awesome yellow that he got when he did, I think we would have got 1st or 2nd, so I'm a little bummed.
Well, Brandon, you finished 3rd. Sponsor shout-outs. Who gets it done for you and the team?
Well, I got to thank everyone on Team Veloster out there. Adam Dock did a good job this week. He ended up getting us the Q set that we needed to get into this race. And, I mean, Paul Jennings did a great job. Stouffer did a good job. Actually had Dustin Allis doing a lot of my field numbers throughout the race. So, thank you to everyone involved.
Well, that's Brandon Trost. He finishes 3rd here, and I believe Randy is going to catch up with Austin Espity, who finished at 4th.
Yeah, I'm stood by with Austin. Austin's so close, but yet so far. You qualified 4th, you finished 4th. How was that number 9 machine today?
Really good. Had an up and down day. Followed Jeff into his pit box once. Had it back all the way up. Lost at 8 spots. Then I did an undercut in the pits. That helped. There on that, it was just saving fuel. And when we all pitted with 35 to go, I pretty much knew if we had one more yellow, we would have been able to make it. And that one yellow happened, and I was good. And Josh was good. So our main goal was just to get by Brandon and pull away and just ride for a bit. That didn't work out, more yellows, and I knew Chris and Tim had old tires, and it was just defend as much as I could from that point.
When that last caution came out, well, actually, no, not final caution, but when that caution came out with 35 to go, what was the team chatter like talking about, do I come in or do I just stay out? Who was big strategy people about who was, maybe thinking about that would be a good time to stop? Who thought that'd be a good time to stay out?
I actually thought of basically splitting the fuel load, but Jeff and Josh basically told me just to fill it up and whatever happens, happens. So we filled it up, and it was just from that, it was just the cautions would fall maybe once or twice, but not as much as we had in the last 30 laps.
And for you, what's up next? Is it going to be another big IndyCar race? Is it prepping for another World Tour event? Is it another one of the big Banshee games at Risk? What's on the agenda for you?
Probably a big game at Risk, but other than that, I think I only subbed for 1 month, just for the month of May, so subscription runs out soon, so I'll probably sub back once the league gets going again, probably July. Other than that, just probably playing Risk and Cards Against Humanity.
Can confirm, though there's some fun nights. Will, I'm going to throw it back to you. You're stood by a 5th place runner, Bradley Walters.
Yeah, Bradley Walters, at one point, we would argue he'd had the fastest car on track here today.
Actually, wait, we don't have Bradley in the team speak.
Well, okay, I won't talk to Bradley Walters then.
My bad.
It's okay. He was here at one point. He has just left. But we're going to wrap things up here in just a few moments' time on Racesport TV and on iRacing Live. I want to actually bring Christopher Demerit back in, because we often saw, Chris, when we were on board with you, the image of someone at the front of your car in military uniform. Of course, that was Mike Perry, who lost his life. Actually, I have to say, literally, a couple of weeks after I met him for the first time at Road Atlanta in the fall of last year. But Mike Perry is also always a big part of Broken Arrow. You know, huge character, always a friendly face to those who knew him, and you got to bring him to Victory Lane here today.
Yeah, definitely. TeamSpeak's a little quieter without him. I didn't get to know him as much as well as the other Broken Arrow guys did. I was starting to get to know him, but it was sad to find out, and he probably hates me for putting a picture of him smiling on my car for everyone to see. But glad I could bring him to Victory Lane with me on my nose cone.
And of course, we will miss Mike. He was always a big character in the iRacing IndyCar community, and of course wider on the iRacing community as well. Well, Cisco, final thoughts. It's been a longer one than what we do normally, and it's been a crazier one than what we do normally. In the end, every 100th matters.
Absolutely, every 100th. In this case, even every 10,000th mattered, Will. And well, we leave Indianapolis here on the sim. It's not, month of May isn't over yet, so we still got some more racing action to come from Indianapolis. But for us, we get to leave Indiana, and we'll be back for the Brickyard. But until then, we just love coming to this track, Will. I mean, it's so great. The amount of effort, the amount of just fantastic racing these guys put on each and every year here at Indianapolis for the iRacing Indy 500 is just fantastic. And this is why we get to bring it to you guys, because the racing is fantastic. And you guys, everyone out there watching, also I do want to point out, we just hit 60K on the YouTube. So there you go.
That's a lot of donations.
Randy.
Fantastic race, I think, through and through. Strategy, some interesting timed yellows, some fast race cars. I think we had a point where there was probably about a dozen different drivers that could have won that race. And the finish, 0.02 of a second, one of the closest in history probably for iRacing, maybe the closest. We had the fastest Indy 500 a couple weeks ago. We have one of the closest this year. Who can really complain?
Yeah, no one can. And it's been a fantastic way to celebrate the very best of IndyCar racing on iRacing. And thank you to everyone that's been a part of that. Do I end the broadcast by letting people know my little secret, Cisco?
Sure, why not?
Start of November, we're doing it all over again. Racesport TV, Indy 500, coming to you 4th and 5th of November, 2017. Be there. In the meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, this has been coverage of the 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. Congratulations to the driver of Christopher Demerit. And congratulations to all the drivers that finished here today. Winning at Indy is one of a sim racer's biggest challenges. And if they do it, they get to put themselves in one of the most elite names in iRacing history. Justin Del Sant, Tim Doyle, Young O, Brody Kostecki, Tim Holgate, Nigel Barneve, Cam Stark, Matt Pavelski, and now Christopher Demerit. Thank you everyone who's been a part of our coverage. Want to give a very quick shout out to our partners and One Design, official graphics partner of Racesport TV, to ATVO, the graphics engine of Racesport TV, and to Istvan Balal's track cams for gourmets. From Will Vincent, Cisco Scaramuza, and Randy Chinnoth, we'll see you all next time. Farewell from the Brickyard.